All systems nominal.
それでは早速全速前進
You don't know what the weak point of a mech is? The fucking pilot.
Get away from her, you bitch!
His papers say he was a raven.
Protocol 3.
A pattern blue!
Welcome to On the Shoulders of Giants, a giant robot power hour discussing mechs across media, their stories, and why we love them. I'm Brian, and I'm joined, not misogynistically, by Alice.
Kept you waiting, huh?
And Nico.
When I decided to become a podcaster, they gave me psychotherapy to destroy my interest in men.
This time around, we are beginning the Metal Year.
The Metal Year.
A long-form, high-camp, military sci-fi experience that will have us repeatedly asking, has war changed? Beginning with Metal Gear Solid. Let's launch into it. So this was produced, published, and developed in 1998 by Konami under Hideo Kojima, known co-father of the pod, I think.
Yes.
The length, I think, is debatable. It kind of depends on what you get up to. I would say it's probably around 6 hours. I think it took me around 10, all said.
How long to beat averages at around 12 hours.
Okay, that makes sense to me. There's a lot of, it kind of depends on how confident you are, too, because it's an espionage game.
Yeah, I will say
I'm sorry, tactical espionage action, I should specify.
Tactical espionage.
The person I watched play this game obviously had a ton of confidence. Their playthrough was 6 hours, and it was the most balls-to-the-wall, insane playstyle I've ever seen in my life. I was like, this is a stealth game? And I bet it is, but not from this person.
One of the weird things about this game, though, is that, yeah, it is a stealth game, but there's not really a walk slowly option. Like, the other games have actual sneaking buttons, but this motherfucker is just running around. Like...
Or crawling. Those are the two methods of movement.
Those are the two options. So yeah, 12 hours-ish. It's credited as like the cornerstone and the foundation of a bunch of things, including like in-engine and FMV cutscenes in the same piece of media.
Yeah, we would not have Alan Wake 2 without. I can't believe that Snake walked so that Alan Wake could run.
Well, Snake didn't walk. We've been over this. He can only
Snake
run
ran
in this
or
one.
crawl.
Jot that down.
So that Alan Wake could fall face first down some stairs.
Yeah, true. That's so good. And shine flashlights.
Yes.
Yeah, character design lead and like lead illustrator Yoji Shinkawa based the like kind of overall appearance of our main character, Solid Snake, on a combination of Jean-Claude Van Damme and Christopher Walken, which is a wild sentence to say into a microphone.
Oh, what was the James Bond movie that Christopher Walken was in? I wonder if that's cross-pollination. Anyway.
Oh, there might be. I almost feel like there has to be. But this is also the man who did all of like the cover illustrations and like the art for the codec calls is all Yoji Shinkawa.
Which is really good art. It's really cool.
So good. It's such a unique
so
style.
So good.
So just other, like, I just have a bunch of, like, fun little production facts that I just want to front load this with because I think they're all really fun. And if you think about them while you think about the game, it's just, like, really entertaining. So, like, one of those is Kojima used, like, actual Legos to build out, like, first-person views and, like, what the different little, like, obstacles might look like on patrol routes.
Nice.
Which is why we get, like, room of blocks.
Yeah, that makes
room
sense.
of squares.
Literally.
And then the other thing that's cool, and we mentioned the voice acting earlier too, is this was one of the first voice acted games, like throughout voice acted, like constantly voice acted. Everybody speaks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no just dialogue on screen scrolling. Everything is voice acted.
I didn't notice that, but now that you pointed out, like, damn.
It adds so much to it too. Like, it's so good.
It does. And it adds to like the campiness of it because some of it's so corny, but in such a way that's so perfect, and it's so good. One of the things about that's interesting is that David Hayter, who is the voice of Snake, extremely iconic voice, great voice actor, Also the writer of like Watchmen and the first X-Men movie, which
wow,
I have opinions about. But anyway, he's the only credited voice actor. Like his is the only like real name that shows up. Everybody else had to use a pseudonym because nobody was sure how voice acting in video games was going to work because it was so new, and SAG was like, I don't know, we don't know what to do with this, so don't use your real names.
That's wild.
I think it's so cool how that industry has evolved.
The other thing I think that this series is super, super well known for is like those innovative like meta moves that it does with, not only characters like Psycho Mantis, but several characters talk about the controller. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's my smattering of just like, I think these are fun to contextualize talking about this game because like if you think about the fact that like so much of this was humanity's first run at these things in video games, and like it came together in this like gorgeous mess of like absolute bizarreness.
Right. And like, because innovation in video games right now is very like iterative. Like, oh, you do one new thing in your video game. This game did 50 new different things. Not all of them landed, but so many of them landed so well that this created a giant franchise.
Yeah, one thing you had to clarify for me, Brian, because I bought a Metal Gear package on Steam so that I could kind of like attempt to play these games. And you had to be like, no, don't play the SNES games because those come with the package. And so I was really like, I was thrown because I thought that this was the first one in the franchise and I didn't know how the others fit into it. So I was like, okay, damn.
Yeah, it's like up front, there were 2 games technically in the series before this chronologically, Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. Those are both NES games that just have so little going on that it's like, I don't think it's super important to play them to get the experience. Like the offhanded lines in Metal Gear Solid explain the entire plot of both of those games.
Yeah, those are just, it's such a nothing burger game.
It's just, Solid Snake defeated Metal Gear already once, and it's a big tank with a nuke.
And Big Boss.
And also, Metal Gear looks really lame in those games. So
it really does.
So yeah, not necessary to play those NES games. Nobody really talks, especially because like they don't have nearly the same level of like discourse and plot to them that this game does. So in a way, it really is the first of its kind.
Okay.
Mostly because you can't fit that stuff in an NES game. Like most of the dialogue is just like a couple lines of text.
Not a lot of FMVs in SNES games.
What did you guys know about Metal Gear Solid, Alice?
Oh, not much. I'm no spoilers. I'm kind of new to the franchise.
You're lying.
You fake ass bitch.
I played the first one when I was about 10 and got hooked on the series. I played all of them on their native consoles shortly after release. I sat and openly wept at 4 a.m. in my college apartment while playing Metal Gear Solid 4. My roommate came out and was like, "What's wrong with you?" I do love this series. I love and hate this series, like many fans. I've played them multiple times and watched many people play them. It's a comfort franchise for me. What about you, Nico?
Oh, so this is a funny situation. This is kind of the turnabout. So I only knew as much as you could absorb through internet meme osmosis. I had never played the games, never interacted with them, only ever seen clips and meme edits and press F to pay your respects and all that kind of stuff. Except...
press F to pay your respects is from Call of Duty, not Metal Gear, right?
No, see? I thought it was from Metal Gear. I'm fucking stupid.
Okay, continue.
Yeah, see, that's my level of understanding. Except... Alice, do you remember on the Promare episode where I gave you shit because your first interaction with Promare was through Dojinshi?
Yeah.
My first serious interaction with Metal Gear was through fanfiction.
Jesus Christ.
I have a grand unified theory of fan fiction, which is that some media forms produce a fan fiction archive in a fandom that is kind of juvenile or unpolished in terms of what they write. And you can't always correlate it. It's not like a cartoon is going to produce this kind of fandom and a movie is going to produce something else. It's totally random. But typically, the age of the media will also give you a little bit more robust of an archive to go through and some better works. Mm-hmm. And at one point, I was really jonesing for something to read and didn't want to pick up a book. And I was like, I wonder what the Metal Gear fanfiction scene is like. Whereupon I stumbled into novel-length fanfictions, which I read. And I think it's going to be a funny situation where I run into things I vaguely remember from the fan fiction, which may or may not have occurred in the video game series. But I also have, like, the vague shape of a lot of it in a weird way, so we'll see how far that carries me. Yeah, so that's what I knew.
Nico accidentally stumbling upon the rich vein of Otasune fanfic out there.
Yeah!
Their relationship is on its knees begging and screaming to be written hornily about, to be quite honest.
Which made it real weird to meet Otacon in this. Would you believe he's not as competent as he is in fanfiction?
Hey. Okay.
He gets a little better.
He basically saves the day in this one, I'm gonna argue.
Yeah, he does. Sorry, nothing but respect for Otaku convention.
For our sniveling little male wife, yeah, I'm obsessed with him.
Brian, what did you know about this franchise?
God, it's hard to even say. This is like another Evangelion for me, where like I don't even know where it started. I know the most significant of it was happening to me like throughout middle school and high school because I had a friend who was really, really into it. I remember the PlayStation 3 coming out, and I don't think Metal Gear Solid 4 was a launch title, but it was really soon after the PS3 came out. And I remember like all of that kind of being wrapped up in it, and I really wanted to play 4, and I was like, we were early high schoolers or middle schoolers or something, so I was like accused and bullied because I hadn't super played it, and so I needed to play the first 3. And so like I did all this stuff to try and get a PS2 and get it all together, and I played them all, and it completely changed my brain chemistry forever, I think.
Brain rot.
I'm realizing that the ecological niche that Metal Gear Solid filled for you was filled for me by Kingdom Hearts, and I feel like I did the worst thing.
You're not wrong. I'll put that out there. I'll sign that. You're not wrong.
But yeah, similar to Alice, this is an extremely like formative, like my sense of humor and like my kind of understanding of strangely like Western media is so highly influenced by the way this game series is just like on its head. Absolutely high camp version of gritty Tom Clancy bullshit. It's so fun and like weird, and I'll never get enough of it. It only gets weirder. So
yeah, I was warned about this by Alice on the call when
I said to Nico, so how does it feel knowing that this is as normal as it gets?
Yeah, and I made a series of inarticulate noises and then went no.
So what happens in Metal Gear Solid?
What happens in Metal Gear Solid? I do have to say, before I act a poser on the internet, I have only ever, or until I played this game for this podcast, I had only ever played the GameCube version, which is called the Twin Snakes. It is exactly the same. It just has like slightly better graphics. Well, there might be like some slight like
there's some quality of life things in it.
Yeah, there's some quality of life things in it. The other a fun fact about that I don't even have in my notes. I just know this off the top of my head because I'm a freak. Is that they had to re-record the entire video game to release the Twin Snakes because the GameCube like sound equipment was too good and you could hear traffic outside on the original track. So they had to re-record everything.
Oh my God. Oh, I know that pain.
Didn't know that one. That's great.
Audio engineer feelings.
So yeah, this is the brief synopsis of what happens in the video game Metal Gear Solid. In the distant future year of 2005, we encounter an alternate form of world history in which the Cold War continued well into the 90s and ended with a series of crises solved by famed super soldier Solid Snake concerning a walking nuclear launch platform mech called Metal Gear. This whole thing ended with the revelation that the head of the terrorists' big boss was Solid Snake's father. In Metal Gear Solid, we rejoin Snake, pulled from retirement to address a hostile terrorist takeover of the experimental military operation Foxhound on Shadow Moses Island off Alaska, threatening to perform a nuclear weapon launch unless the remains of Big Boss are given over to them. Snake arrives at the facility and finds that a path of mysterious heart attacks, piss, and the greatest lines of all video game writing, nuclear waste, and cyborg ninjas has been mysteriously laid out for him. Over the course of his espionage, Snake will make new enemies, allies, and enemies out of allies as he works to uncover the truth behind the resumption of the Black Project Metal Gear Rex.
That was really succinct, but it also highlighted how many fucking nouns are in this.
Yeah. nouns, piss.
This is scratching on the surface and it's already bananas.
We will now take a break. And then after that break, we will come back and get into... I need to know Nico's experience of this. Break time.
Hey, Nico here in the break. Just wanted to let you know that while this is a podcast, and we'll always do our best to describe visuals we're commenting on, we'll also include links to the mechs and images we discuss in the show notes, and post actual photos on our show website. Along with that, make sure to check the show notes for content warnings as appropriate to the episode. That's all for now. Back to the show.
So I don't know if you all have looked at the episode outline, but I split this into 4 parts based on like each part ending with one of the bosses of the game. There are like 28,000 bosses, but these were like, I felt this split up the narrative into like narrative beats that we can kind of stay zoomed out on while being in order.
Yeah.
The first part is Revolver Ocelot, so everything like the beginning of the game leading up to basically the first actual boss fight.
With Ocelot.
With Ocelot. So I don't know if y'all have any like specific thoughts about this part of the game.
Let's talk about the intro. I just need to start right on the intro.
It's iconic as hell. I mean, everything.
It's iconic.
Yeah.
So, boy howdy. How do you infiltrate a top secret facility in Alaska? That's right. You shoot a manned submersible from a nuclear submarine at it with Solid Snake inside. You give Solid Snake absolutely no gear except for his sneaking suit and the cigarettes that he
Swallowed? And then regurgitates
to get in. But yeah, so we come in with this, like, we get the overarching what's happening, terrorists have taken over Shadow Moses, and it's this really big, high, intense, tactical espionage shit is happening. He's like, Colonel, I've got to go in and do this. And he's like, I'm not a colonel anymore. They called me back in for one last job. It sets the entire tone for the game, which is like...
It does.
People are chewing scenery from the beginning with this plot of tactical espionage, and all of it to end with us in a sub bay smoking.
Yeah, this was really funny. So I watched the playthrough of this with my very brave spouse, who was trying to be supportive and make sure I get my podcast homework done. They sat down with a computer and were trying to work on something. I started the sequence and they just stopped looking at their computer to watch, completely baffled as words were said at us by this intro that were just so baffling. When they rattle off the members of Foxhound and say shit like decoy octopus, my poor partner was just staring at the TV and then looked over at me like, what have you gotten me into? And let me tell you, that was a look I became intimately familiar with.
Yeah.
Nico, without looking or cheating, name all members of Foxhound. Go.
Okay, there's Liquid Snake, who's the British mullet. There's Revolver Ocelot, the Russian cowboy. There's Psycho Mantis, the Gimp. There's Vulcan Raven, the Native American. There's Decoy Octopus, who dies like a bitch. And there is the beautiful Sniper Wolf, who I have deep respect for. I think that's it. Is that all of them?
There's one former member you forgot.
Is it Big Boss?
Solid Snake.
Oh.
Former member of Foxhound.
I didn't know he... Oh, right. This was in the games I was told not to play because they're not important.
No, they literally say it in this, that he's a former member of Foxhound.
Oh, yeah. And then Liquid took his call sign.
Your former squad, Foxhound, has taken over Shadow Moses.
The Foxhound has a very specific lineage, which we actually will find way more about throughout the series, but yes.
Okay, that adds some incredibly funny context for me because there's so much weird shit that happens in this game, and I have to think about the fact that Snake just like was in the break room with these people. Previously, he was playing Xbox with these people. Well, he wasn't, because it's alternate universe 2005.
PlayStation series.
You know Solid Snake has never heard of a video game.
Yeah, that's true. There's only one man in this game who's heard of video games.
Yeah,
Anyway, that was my pop quiz.
You passed.
To speak to Solid Snake's kind of intro specifically, I mean, this is one of those things where it's like, you know, up front, yes, this game can be bafflingly misogynist at times. And it can also be bafflingly racist at times. But also, this fucking disembarking scene is a full-on strip scene. We are like, the amount of times in this game we're going to pan up from Solid Snake's feet up to his crotch, around his ass, through his abs, and up under his chin, as if like we're at the Met Gala, is both beautiful and astonishing.
Corollary to the male gaze, the Kojima gaze.
The Kojima gaze. He will sacrifice everything for masculinity. He has snuck those cigarettes in his stomach. He could not just not have cigarettes or take some from the Russians.
The way I visualize this happening, right? There's a reason I said the word regurgitate. He regurgitates it, catches it in his lips. At no point does he regurgitate it in his hand. He catches it in his lips and then he lights it. And they're all faintly damp. This is the only truth I will accept about the Solid Snake cigarette situation.
Alice, what do you make of the cigarette situation?
I don't know if it requires discourse. It's just a cool thing he did. No, I assume it's like a cocaine baggie, and he wrapped it in plastic, swallowed it, kept it in his stomach, and didn't shit it out by pure will, and then just hawked out the whole thing. Because the item in the game is a pack of cigarettes, and I can't imagine he's just like, in the game, he pulls it out to smoke it.
He does, yeah.
I wouldn't know. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, the person I watched never smoked cigarettes. They didn't have time.
Wait, not even for the one segment?
This is what it's interesting that you say that, because this is one of the things that's like so interesting about this game, and like what the different weird fucking things that you can do in it is. Depending, I mean, you can forego this, I guess, technically, if you know exactly what you're doing, but you need the cigarettes at several points early in the game so that you can see laser detectors.
Oh, yeah. No, the person I was watching was just fucking pro, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ocelot.
Can we maybe just talk about the general game structure? It's you have an objective, you get items, generally some of them are like literal key cards, or like you got to get the MacGuffin to get through this segment, right? And you got to go find it.
Can you talk to me about the chaff grenades? Because I didn't think this is how radar chaff worked. I didn't think they were EMPs.
No. Well, they're not EMPs, because if they were EMPs, they would knock out the camera. They just merely disorientate them so that they can't see things.
I was baffled.
But also, those aren't a personal item weapon thing. You don't just have a personal sized chaff grenade.
Also, you can't use a chaff grenade effectively in a snowfield in the middle of a blizzard. So
yeah, that was item one where like that got pulled out, and I was like, oh, this is the kind of game it's gonna be. We're just doing shit.
But yeah, you're right. Maybe or maybe not, we transplant this to like somewhere up more front. But to talk about the general overall structure of like the gameplay loop, you are Solid Snake. You are trying to sneak around places to get to an objective. Those objectives change based on the narrative. A lot of it is just, here's a block, there's a guy on the other side of the block, move when the guy is not looking. That is probably about 60% of the gameplay. And the other 40% is like, what weird thing do I have to do to get past this like bizarrely contrived obstacle, such as like laser detectors, or a hind shooting the bridge that you're about to walk across, or a sniper down a hallway.
Yeah, it's big on the boss fight. Right?
Yeah.
Like, this game is centered around the boss fight, and it's things stringing you along. But yeah, it's like, oh, I can't do this thing yet because I don't have the thermal goggles, right?
Right. I don't have the key card. Signalis, we love Signalis in this.
We do. Signalis is great.
Signalis, I think, is like, people talk about Resident Evil, but I also think this is strong in Signalis's veins because there's so much key card bullshit going on.
Yeah.
I will say, one of the first things I noticed early in the game, when you get to the DARPA chief and you are like interrogating him about like his situation, how you're going to extract him, that kind of stuff. This was like my first exposure to the cinematic cutscene in this era, which was wild. It was wild that they were doing like camera angles and shit on characters that are just like a smear.
It's so
5 polygons
to me. I love, like, I have this actually pretty late in my notes, but that's one of my favorite things about these games is, like, I mean, and obviously, like, Metal Gear Solid 2 has slightly better graphics, but, like, they're not afraid to, like, have, like, full-on cinnamon topography with, like, a polygon. Like, the moment after, like, the torture scene where it's just, like, the overhead surgical lamp, and it's like, you know what that is because you've seen dumb movies before or whatever, but, like, that's some circles, bud. Like, it's really good. I actually really enjoy that about this.
But yeah, in the process of tracking down these vital targets, the DARPA chief and the president of the company, right? President Baker. President Baker, yeah. Yeah, that's when we first encounter our boss of the scene. Y'all, what the fuck? Who is this man?
Well, yeah. To go through the roster, wait, who are you talking about, Campbell?
Revolver fucking Ocelot. What is this fucking man?
Before then, I have to drop every single important line that Snake says, and there's only one in this segment, which is a hind D, because a hind D is there. This game does a lot of, like, showing you things that you're gonna see later in a really cool way.
Yeah.
Oh, but speaking of which, the less cool way, I almost forgot. Early in the sequence, after the DARPA chief stuff, is when we meet Meryl. And her distinctive ass.
Meryl is treated like absolute dog water in this fucking video game, which is something that I hadn't really remembered because, like, this isn't a spoiler, like, I just have to tell you this to give you hope for a better future. Meryl has her fucking muscle mommy absolute domination sequence
later in the series
all over the place in Metal Gear Solid 4. She is so much better in that game.
I'm glad she gets some redemption because I will tell you something a little bit later that I told Alice when we first got on the call. It has been a experience with this character.
She's so much. Almost everything she says is utterly baffling. I don't understand what we're doing with her in this.
She's the Colonel's daughter. What else do you need to know?
Niece.
Oh.
Yeah, the Colonel's niece. And
her dad died, I forgot.
She wanted to be a soldier more than anything, but she's a naive rookie who can't kill people as easy as our cool dude.
She infiltrated Shadow Moses as well.
No, she was already in place, right? She had been deployed there. Yeah.
She was placed there very deliberately.
Yeah.
But everyone else in this facility is a genome soldier. And then, like, our small cast of characters. She's, like, just one of the few people still remaining here.
That must have been an awkward day on the troop transport. Just looking around like, huh.
So that's another character. The other character we have to just call out because she'll come up again is Dr. Naomi Hunter, who is wife of all time. Jennifer Hale, iconic.
Oh, I thought I
actress.
recognized that voice.
Yeah.
This was, like, I don't know if this was her, like, debut, but I think Dr. Naomi Hunter, because she comes up a lot more in the series, is kind of her magnum opus. She's such a fascinating and interesting and, like, bizarre character because we spend so much time, like, I mean, in this game, she's an antagonist, like, to say it up front. But then, like, later on, as your kind of her relationship with the audience changes, she's so interesting. I'm excited to talk more about her.
She has a very fun arc through the series.
She does.
And in this one game.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does. I will say it's been interesting. I've been looking a little bit closer at James Bond stuff recently, and it's very funny that there is kind of, it definitely feels to me there's cross-pollination in the sense of, like, there's this one guy who's the baddest spy who can do the infiltration, and every time a woman speaks to him, you experience the biggest secondhand cringe because they all have to experience workplace harassment. Because you get codec calls, you meet Dr. Naomi Hunter, you meet Mei Ling, who does is that her name? Mei Ling?
Mei Ling.
Yeah. Who does your, like, codec and a lot of your tech stuff. You meet Meryl, and universally, it's just like, hey, sexy kind of stuff. And it's just very much in that mold of, like, if you have a cool dude, the respecting women has not yet come into the cool dude pattern. It's mostly just like, how many bad bitches can you pull? Yeah. So I just wanted to flag that because it's funny.
To Solid Snake's credit, I think he intentionally or otherwise also does the same thing with several men throughout this video game.
We got some thirsty traps in this game.
Unilateral sexual aggression.
Yeah. Anyway,
speaking of
those
sexual aggression.
this first part of the game serves to introduce those characters, and yes, to lead into it, it ends with I find an extremely frustrating battle against Revolver Ocelot with President Baker in the room. We can't talk about Revolver Ocelot too much. He is one of the most important characters in the series, and he never gets more normal. I don't know what to say.
Every time this man showed up. Okay, my last note is Revolver Ocelot is the only bitch I respect, so I can't slag him off too much. But he showed up on screen, and I'm like, who is this fucking oil baron looking motherfucker who is in here with his little fucking neckerchief and his fucking mustache and his gun stunts?
Every single Metal Gear game has a scene where Revolver Ocelot makes your jaw hit the floor and you have no idea what's happening. I will just say that. He's so good. He's like, I think he might be my favorite character.
I also want to say that there's something, so people who haven't played this, and honestly, you know, I find this a hard recommend to anybody, but half of the characters exist in the game in cutscenes and you fight them or interact with them that way.
Yeah.
And then the other half are purely through the codec, which is just, it's a radio that you call and you have the two pictures of the characters and they talk back and forth. And that's a lot of how you get details in the story, little Easter eggs and stuff. You have to use that to save the game. So like Mei Ling is a character that we only ever see a drawing of talking to us. That's it. But Revolver Ocelot, we get to see all 8 pixels just tossing guns.
And 7 of those pixels are on the gun.
Yeah. My main note for this fight is, like, for Ocelot to hornily caress the phallus of his revolver while gushing about how it's the greatest weapon ever made, only for the fight to be purely based on you exploiting that thing's glaring fucking weakness is, like, top tier camp to me. And it's so deliberate. It makes it's bizarre. I love it.
You
so
only
much.
have 6 shots.
A cult single action army. The greatest revolver ever made, the greatest weapon ever made, because a revolver can't jam.
Yeah, he says that. I kind of agree.
That's my most hated fight in the game. That's it.
Yeah.
It's so annoying. I love Revolver Ocelot.
It looked really goddamn annoying.
It's so annoying to play.
I remember when I first played through the Twin Snakes, I remember it like being stuck on it for like literal weeks. Like I could not figure out what I was supposed to do.
Especially the game has fixed cameras, right?
Yeah.
It's a fixed direction and it follows you. You can go into first person, but it's the jankiest thing ever. And if you're using a controller, so like I originally played on the GameCube like Brian, Twin Snakes. I went back to play the PlayStation a couple years later. Your hand is like clawing this thing to try and like do anything in a timely manner.
The buttons that you have to press in order to be able to run and shoot at the same time are completely like anti holding the controller the right way. It's impossible. So you know, that's just where we're at in 1999.
But luckily
or
we
whatever.
beat him.
Yeah, we beat him.
Take out one of his arms? Is this?
This is when the motherfucking other incomprehensible part of the plot shows up in the form of a fucking ninja.
A ninja who uses the backhanded stance, which like I used to think was so cool, but
I literally had a moment where I said to my partner, I was like, why is he holding his fucking katana upside down and backwards?
It sucks. I don't like the way it looks anymore. It looks stupid.
Well, because
I guess like
he uses the blunt side because no one is worth the sharp end of his blade. Until he meets Snake in battle.
Yeah, but like holding it that way is so like not to be like
you can't put the power on it.
Yeah, like it's just it doesn't. I don't think it looks cool anymore the way I used to.
I did kendo. The whole thing is you need 2 hands on it. Shut the fuck up. I did take kendo because I was a weeb, but part of the reason you use 2 hands on a samurai sword is so that you can put a ton of power into the swing, but you can use your other hand to control. And it's like, I get that he's a cyborg ninja, but I'm like, I don't know how you're getting power or control with this fucking grip. Anyway, he takes off fucking Ocelot's gun hand.
Yeah, he does do that.
Both of Ocelot's hands are gun hands, to be clear. He dual wields.
God damn it.
He does. The missing hand is extremely plot critical forever. But
I was hoping so. I was hoping this was a Star Wars situation.
It's so much weirder than that. But anyway, one of the fun facts I have about this is that Cyborg Ninja and like later Otacons like stealth drive thing is actually a glitch that they couldn't figure out how to fix. And then they were like, well, it's a tactical espionage action game, so let's just make guys invisible.
It worked.
It worked
really well.
It worked really well. They ended up making a whole boss fight about it, which I think is one of the better ones. That shit rules.
Yeah. But yeah, so DARPA Chiefs dies, rest in piss, asshole.
DARPA Chief dies, President Baker dies. Both of these motherfuckers were pieces of shit.
People keep dying around Snake, and it's important.
What do they die of, though?
The Death Note.
Yeah.
They die of the Death Note. They die of heart attacks. One thing I love about this is Baker hitting Solid Snake's little calf like with his cane desperately is so funny to me. And then this is our first like full motion video live action footage speech that we get.
Yeah.
The Bleeding Heart Liberals on the Military Oversight Committee is like an iconic video game writing line. People know about this, I think.
Yep.
That's just there.
That's why we push to have Metal Gear developed as a black project.
Black Project.
Secret projects paid for by the Pentagon's black budget. You can avoid a lot of red tape and get a great lead time on your weapons production. And no one can bother you. Not even those bleeding heart liberals on the Military Oversight Committee.
It immediately tells you that it's like, okay, this is a game where you're doing tactical espionage stuff and we're throwing around a lot of nouns. Mm-hmm. The person behind the game is deeply invested in foreign policy and nuclear weapons and like geopolitics in a way that is going to be in this game. This may be an alternate future, but like this is when you first kind of go, oh, this person has an interest.
I mentioned Watchmen earlier, and I think there has to be some kind of cross-pollination because, like I said, I'm pretty sure David Hayter headed the screenplay for that movie. Mm-hmm. Both of those like medias are set in a alternate timeline concerning the Cold War, and both are extremely, extremely concerned with like the price and handling of nuclear disarmament following it. You know what I mean?
Well, this game definitely it touches on something, Alice, which I'm sure you've heard the phrase thrown around before, which is the end of history. Mm-hmm. You know, it's this idea that it's like we had been in the Cold War status quo for so long and we had understood how to navigate the world in that way. Yeah. And then when that ended, it felt like the end of history. Like 9/11 hadn't happened yet. A lot of things hadn't happened yet. Really, the .com boom hadn't happened yet. But there were all these new technologies happening, but it didn't seem like there was like a direction for the world in the way there had been when there were two massive superpowers and two huge ideologies that were dominating it. Mm-hmm. And I think you see a lot of that kind of feeling of the end of history in this, and like Hideo Kojima speculating on what comes after.
Yeah.
And that's going to remain huge. Metal Gear Solid 3 it takes place during the Cold War. So we will revisit that in much grander detail and scope, I think.
I got a lot of reading to do. Anyway, do we want to talk about the GIMP?
Yeah, I mean, this part of the game is actually pretty short. I think it's a lot more of the raw gameplay. And then there's like a really weird compet core conversation between Meryl and Snake. This is the
moment I have to talk about. So in the playthrough, I'm like an hour and a half into watching this, and I pause it. And I said to my very brave spouse, I'm like, I'm going to go get the bottle of sake that I have downstairs. I had a 300 milliliter, like half bottle of sake, right? And I'm like, I'm going to go get this. I need it. Like, I'm just going to need it. And so I went downstairs, I heated up my sake, I bring it back up. And then I had a fun thought. And I was like, okay, I'm going to drink a cup of sake anytime something misogynist happens.
Oh, and that's why you're dead, and we're talking to your ghost.
That's why you're talking to my ghost, because immediately the next scene that started was the scene with Meryl in the bathroom. And finally my partner was like, every minute. You can drink a cup of sake every minute that something misogynist happens, but if you just do it every time something misogynist happens, I will tell you, I obliterated that 300 ml of sake in about 15 minutes, and I was so fucked up. I thought Psycho Mantis was talking to me in my head.
Well, he was.
He was. I think this whole scene with trying to... So Meryl is undercover and you have to find her out. And Brian, you talked about the meta moves that Kojima introduces. So in video games, especially of this era, guards are guards. It is the same copy-pasted NPC. It has the same copy-pasted animations. To find Meryl, you have to find the guard that's got a sway in their hips. Yep. I think that's great. I just think that's great. It's an
interesting idea in terms of like finding someone based on their body language. Unfortunately, it is all about ass.
I hate the noise and the amount of times we pan dramatically across Meryl. The fact that this game only has
pointy
like
tits.
8 polygons. No, that's exactly it. The fact that this game only has 8 polygons and he uses 7 of them on Meryl's nipples in the bathroom is like
It is critical.
That's again, like I ended up 2/3 of the way through the bottle during that scene, and it was hidden by the time we did the rest of it, which was really wild.
Isn't this where she says she was conditioned to not care about
This is when
men?
she says, when I joined up, they gave me psychotherapy to destroy my interest in men, which is just factually untrue the entire rest of the game.
No, Snake breaks through that psycho conditioning with the help
That's
of
worse. You get how that's
Psychomantis.
worse, right?
Oh.
Oh God, is that the implication? Anyway, that tune is his mind control music.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So it's in your notes, Brian, but the music in this game is
it's so good.
Fucking amazing.
It's an absolute orchestra of synth pounding in your ears all the time.
It is really good.
There's only one other part before the Psychomantis fight I really want to talk in, which is the breaking out of jail scene. So Snake gets arrested by the genome soldiers. Whatever, they don't kill him, who cares? We find out why later. But he breaks out and the alarm gets raised, and there's a scene where you and Meryl are shooting the guards as they come in. You get a FAMAS, which just love that the FAMAS is the is the weapon they choose for the genome soldiers, something the US military has never used or would never use because it is not a US made weapon.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it before.
You've never heard of the FAMAS?
No.
Is it Russian?
It's French.
Oh, okay, that's kind of what I thought. And it's interesting because they talk about how they got their weapons from fucking Russia. So where did the FAMAS come from?
The Russians weren't willing to part with the AKs.
No, they're using a French bullpup rifle that France, but I don't even know if France was using it by then.
It's crazy.
I think they might have gotten rid of it by then.
And what is the SOCOM? Because I remember Snake being like, oh, I got the shittier one because I didn't get the Deagle. I got the SOCOM. What's wrong with the SOCOM?
The SOCOM's great. So here's why. So the SOCOM is based on the MK23 SOCOM, which was used by a lot of like US special forces at the time. The reason is the current is like the sidearm that was big at the time was the 45 Colt 1911, and it was getting phased out by the military in favor of Glocks and shit. Mm-hmm. And they were going to a 9mm round as the standard as opposed to the 45. A lot of special operators recognized that the 9mm didn't have the same stopping power, so they wanted to use the 45. Mm-hmm. And honestly, just gonna come out and say it, Hideo Kojima probably went to Akihabara, looked through an airsoft store, saw this shit, and was like, that's what he has. And that's what the SOCOM is pretty fucking base.
I would not doubt it. He went to the airsoft store from Persona 5.
I did think it was really interesting to see the Desert Eagle brought up here because I think of it as so synonymous with the War on Terror and with like the Gulf War and everything.
Yeah.
And it's like for
absolutely.
it to appear here, I'm like, this is interesting. It's obviously it was extant before that time, but it becomes so associated with like the Middle East and everything. It's like globalism is a theme. But yeah, the French bullpup rifles are killing me. That's very funny.
Yeah, use the German pistol. None of the weapons are American.
No.
The PSG, not American.
Nope.
The javelin, the launcher, not
what
American.
about the Nikita guided missile?
The Nikita guided missile, that
Nikita.
one.
The Nikita is a series staple too. I love that fucking weapon.
It's so good.
I love how difficult it is to steer. It's so stupid. That puzzle's so dumb.
You don't have a specific call out for the Sniper Wolf fight. I do just want to say very briefly, because we're talking about the Nikita, the person who I watched did that entire fight with the Nikita missiles. And it was really wild to just constantly be seeing her thighs.
That's like one of the strategies. Another one is to just use the stinger and fire everywhere.
I think that's a good thing to pull on that thread. You can do these fights in multiple ways. Not all of them. Like
there's a lot of different ways to handle
the
it.
Ocelot one is pretty doing it just one way, but like every other fight, you can do it. You have the tools. Tactical espionage means you shoot a rocket launcher at a sniper, right? Mm-hmm. Really subtle shit.
I was just going to say briefly before we get to Psychomantis, our beloved little guy Otacon does show up here.
Oh, this is where he shows up. I knew about this scene. Like, I had known about this scene, but it was still incredibly funny. Every sentence out of his mouth is more batshit than the last one.
I am obsessed with Hal Emmerich.
Call Me Otacon is short for Otaku Convention. When I say that, me and my spouse were hands to the sides of our faces.
Our little piss boy.
Just really quick, our little piss boy. So this fight rules. You fight Cyborg Ninja. You find out he's Frank Yeager, which is an old friend of Solid Snake. I am dying that Otacon is like, I wanted to build mechs because I'm a mecha freak and I watched Pat Labor when I was little. Like, there's literally Pat Labor footage.
Yeah. It's great. It's great.
So good.
I want to get high and watch Pat Labor 2 with Otacon.
So Otacon's real name is Hal Emmerich. We know him as Hal Emmerich. And then he needs a call sign because he can't just use your name over radio. And so he chooses the greatest call sign, which is Otaku Convention, or Otacon.
Call me Otacon.
Otacon.
It stands for Otaku Convention.
Because he loves Japanese anime.
This motherfucker.
Yep.
He loves Japanimation.
He loves Japanimation.
I love him so much. And he built Mechs.
In the PlayStation 1 version, his office has a poster of Police Knots, which is like a prior video game by Kojima, which actually Meryl is a character in that. It's like a different universe, so it's not actually her, but...
It's part of the Kojima-verse.
In the GameCube version, he actually has a Zone of the Enders poster in his lab, which we've got to play Zone of the Enders. We've also got to watch the show Zone of the Enders at some point.
Anyway, that tune is his mind control music. The fact that Psycho Mantis has been a presence since fairly early in the game. And part of the reason you will know this is because of a tune. Yeah.
I just want to go back to the fight real quick. In your playthrough that you watched, how did he fight Cyborg Ninja? I mostly want to know how your playthrough and Brian approached these fights, because I think that says a lot about a person.
I don't think he used a weapon until the very end. He just did CQC, and the thing was, you could tell the way that the person playing, you could tell that he had played this so many times, because Cyborg Ninja does so many flips and like special moves and stuff, like animations that are pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, it's cool as fuck.
And he was just positioning himself exactly where he needed to be to then clock him with 2 hits. Like, he had clearly played this fight so many times, he wasn't deceived by any of the move patterns, and he just put himself exactly where he needed to be to get the hits in. It was really consummate, and I knew watching it that it's like, I would have been stuck on this fight for like 4 hours.
I used the same strategy. I actually didn't use the weapon at all. I just used CQC. I just remembered that that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. If you put your weapon away, he puts his weapon away, and it's a much easier fight. One of the codec people tells you that.
That's so funny.
You can also, like, he will not like walk around a corner normally. He has to flip to get on the other side of the wall, so you can just use that to combo him constantly.
Yeah, that's basically what they were doing. They were kiting him around.
I just like remembered that because for some reason this sequence, I think it's because of Otacon, is just burned into my fucking prefrontal cortex.
Otacon pisses himself during this fight. Very important we pay homage to pissing in a locker.
Yes. And then he hides in a piss locker.
Piss locker. This is canon. Piss locker is canon, okay?
Piss locker is canon.
Is the piss locker a mecha?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have an image of it, though.
So Psycho Mantis and the music.
This tune is his mind control music.
Snake, Meryl's not herself. Don't use your weapon.
It's Psycho Mantis. He's controlling Meryl. That tune is his mind control music.
The fact that there has been a musical sting that you hear, and at least for me as a viewer, was like, oh, this is to imply that he's influencing the area. And then it turns out they can hear it in the game. These people can hear his tune.
Yep.
And they...
This is the way they test your water before before characters actively tell other characters what to do with their controllers.
Yes. This whole situation is wild.
So yeah, the Psycho Mantis fight is extremely legendary for many, many reasons. He does a bunch of wacky fucking shit. This is an emaciated gimp in a gas mask.
He's I don't know when Soul Calibur came out in relation to this, but he definitely feels like he's in the DNA of Voldo.
Yeah.
Like
a little bit for sure.
This is also where we just fully pull the mask back and say, this shit's gonna be fucking weird. Like, the Revolver Assault fight is kind of weird, and there's some jumping and everything, but, like, he, at his core, Revolver Ocelot is always just a dude in this series.
Who has 6 shots to shoot. And
12, because he has
Psychomantis.
2 pistols. Jot that down. He
Oh,
always
yeah.
dual wields. Psychomantis floats in the air. His special power is mind control.
Which he uses on Meryl.
He also uses it to do a bunch of stuff, right? Like he will it's extremely fun to see the TV display flash to like the neon green pixel like Hideo text, like a 90s CRT TV, because that's what people were playing on at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Did any of this happen on your playthrough, Nico? Did he do any weird shit to the screen?
Yeah, okay. I didn't know what the hell that was about. I didn't realize it was connected to the fight.
Yeah, that's him doing that. He'll turn your screen off. He'll there's depending on what your strategy is, like at the last part of the fight where you just like can't hit him at all, you can press the first person button and you find that you're actually looking through his perspective, and that's how you find him.
Whoa,
it's
freaky.
It's stuff like that you can do with it. And then, I mean, most famously, he will read your memory card.
Mm-hmm.
This can't happen in the PC version because there's no memory card. But like if certain Konami games are installed on your memory card, he'll say like, "Oh, you like to play Castlevania," and like stuff like that.
In some modern version, they've made it to where you can spoof memory in the actual remake to have him call things out, which is very funny.
Okay.
Yeah, he did that. The person I was watching only saved once. On their virtual memory card. They were playing on the PS4 on the remaster. And so when he read their memory card and was like, "You're reckless. You've only saved once. Like, do you value your life so little or whatever?" And I was like, that's fun. And then the part where he very clearly uses the rumble controls, like...
Set your controller on the floor and watch as I psychically move it. And it just rumbles. Because I just love how they did that. And the one that got me the first time, and it's when I fell in love with the series, is your controller stops working correctly. Yeah. And you have to move it to port 2 to work.
Yeah. I was delighted.
I thought that was
move it over. In the old
I thought
ones.
that was a preference thing by the person I was watching. That's
you have to do that to continue the fight. And in the digital versions, they always like make a way for that to count. Like in the PS4, you have to change input controller in the menus. It's great. It's great.
In the PC version that I played, like the Steam version, like it'll make you disconnect your controller and reconnect it, so you get the little menu that asks you what player that you want to plug to quote unquote plug your. I was really delighted that it made me do that. I was like, I'm not sure how this is gonna go.
I tried to play a little bit of it on Steam Deck, and so I will say the Steam reviews on the collection that they've published are really mixed. A lot of people have issues with the controller, just inputs, period. I struggled with it, which is part of why I watched a playthrough. I have no idea how the fuck they would handle a Steam Deck.
Yeah,
I'm playing the whole thing on a controller.
I mean,
I'm interested to know if there are people who've played with Steam Decks and run into this. Anyway, Psychomantis possesses Meryl in the beginning of this fight, and then I think later.
Yeah.
Is this the first opportunity where you can get her killed? Like, if you shoot her while she's possessed by Psychomantis? Because the person I was watching did CQC.
If you kill her here, you actually get a game over.
Oh, okay. The person I was watching did CQC, and I did wonder if that was like a way to that her character
You are
could
supposed
be
to CQC, or you don't get a tranquilizer gun in this game, do you?
No, not in this one.
Yeah. So no, you have to knock her out. You can't kill her here.
But again, there's some weird ass ideology with Psychomantis and Meryl in this whole thing.
Well, and with his dying words, he talks about how humanity is filthy because everyone's straight, and how Snake is different like the rest of us, while in his gimp outfit.
I know, I wrote down gay ace icon Psychomantis.
I am so serious right now when he like looks at Snake and he's like, "You're not like them. You don't want to, I don't know, pump your seed or whatever." It's like, yeah, dude, it's because he's in love with Otacon, obviously. Like you that's why they had him meet Otacon before this fight. You can't convince me otherwise.
No, it is really weird. So this is kind of our first introduction to one of the themes of this game, which is kind of a eugenics angle. It's already been present because there's the genome soldiers and like the various conditions that are talked about, nanomachines. All this kind of stuff. So like genetics and biology have been talked about before, but this is really where there's Psychomantis presents a perspective on the role and function of the human race that is very much predicated on passing down an inheritance of genes, which is funny and so buck wild. And I was like, you are taking so long to die. Stop giving us your master's presentation right now.
Every major...
Oh, no one dies quick in this game. You don't die quick.
Every major villain that actually dies here is going to give you their entire life. I mean, it's very shonen anime in that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, his is the least interesting to me. I like Sniper Wolf's the most.
Sniper Wolf's is pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and then surrounding this moment too, it's just like Snake is insufferable with Meryl. Meryl is insufferable with herself. Otacon's a fucking weirdo. Every line is bizarre. So then after that wonderful mess, you leave with Meryl and she immediately gets shot 9 times.
My note here says Sniper Wolf shooting Meryl. Was it Yuri?
Kinda.
My partner immediately went no, and then immediately went, but you should ask on the pod.
I'm gonna say no. Just knowing what comes in this series, I don't see it as Yuri.
No, and it's very much, again, Snake points out she's been shot and left in the middle of a corridor to try to draw him out. She's bait for the sniper to take Snake out, and so it's like, yeah, it's about Snake. This doesn't pass the Bechdel test.
No, it doesn't. This is the worst part of the game for all sorts of reasons. A, like, the logistics of this hallway are stupid as hell. B, it's actually going to make you walk all the way to the beginning of the game.
All the way back to get a sniper rifle.
This game has a lot of backtracking.
To get a sniper rifle, and the controls for the sniper rifle are universally dog shit. It is so atrocious. I was fuming at this fucking sequence.
At some point in here, Snake says the legendary sentence, I don't know what the hell my genes look like. I operate on instinct. Themes.
I don't know what this was about, but at some point during and by the way, to be clear, you backtrack for like a full hour while Meryl is just actively bleeding out on the floor. You just leave her there.
Good luck, Meryl.
It's really wild.
There's a moment here, because one of the things that does kind of get annoying after a while is that people will just call you on codec and it just like interrupts everything. One of these, and I don't know which one of this is, but my note is this advice is so irresponsible emotionally, LMAO. And I'm like, that could be said about almost any codec call.
Mei Ling calls to give you quotes. And like when you go to save...
Chinese wisdom, thank you. In her completely not racial way that was not at all uncomfortable. I personally love that the one Chinese character only talks to you in Chinese idioms.
It's good. I like nuts. It. That's why we're here for that. We do not support this or the characterization of a character that's shown up but hasn't like actually shown up yet, which is Vulcan Raven. It's not great, y'all. But yeah, then Snake gets captured for real because you have an infuriating little mini fight with Sniper Wolf on the communications tower, and then she lures him into an extremely obvious trap that you have no choice but to walk into.
And this is when you learn Sniper Wolf is Kurdish. Again, like there's so much globalism going into this game, but it's just like such a funny moment because my 2 back-to-back notes are Sniper Wolf is Kurdish ? And then press the select button to submit.
And then we get our compulsory Metal Gear torture scene.
A theme in this series.
A theme.
Having your protagonist tied up.
You could press the circle button repeatedly to regain your strength or press the select button to submit.
This is the only optional canon event where Meryl can die. Any other sequence where Meryl dies, it's a game over.
Huh.
I don't know how these two things link together, but if you fail the torture sequence, everything else is normal except for some reason Meryl has died somewhere.
Her spirit was linked to yours.
I guess so.
I think it's because you end up if you submit and fail, you end up like passing out and she dies before you can get back to her. Like, again,
I see.
She's bleeding.
There's definitely a passage of time. There's like 2 days, it felt like 2 days. There's a period of several hours because I have a note here. Ocelot is a considerate dom. You go through the torture sequence and you do like a portion of it. And then he's like, if you had enough, blah, 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 whatever. And then you get a rest period. And then he puts you back in the torture chamber. But it's really funny, all his dialogue.
I have to talk about 2 things here. One is that, and this just has to happen now. So if Meryl dies here, the big difference is at the end of the game, instead of Meryl riding bitch with Snake, Snowmobile, it is Otacon, and it is gay as shit.
Oh, damn it, I was robbed! They saved Meryl in my playthrough.
So I was really tempted to let Meryl die, but like I was just like, that's not the canon ending. But the other thing that happens during this torture sequence is Snake says about if you go back in, because I think you have to get tortured at least twice.
Yes.
Yeah, because you get exposition about the president and the eugenics project, which is interesting.
There's another revelation here too, but Ocelot says something to the effect of, how did you sleep in your prison cell? And Snake cranes his head and says, too bad I spent it alone. You're horny for everyone, sir.
Yeah, he is.
Ocelot proposition moment. Press select button to submit.
So the other thing that we get here that Solid Snake absolutely no sells, it's so funny to me, is that he and Liquid Snake are twin brothers and clones of Big Boss.
Oh yeah, by the way. One of the main themes of this series is that
eugenics.
So that is the Nico sent us a contextless picture of kittens with bandanas and battle scars that said Les Enfants Terribles on it.
Yeah.
Now she knows what that means.
I know now. My favorite thing around the Metal Gear is encountering fan art and memes that I know are connected to Metal Gear games, and then just sending them to the podcast group chat and being like, I don't know what the fuck this means, but enjoy. And everyone being like, you'll know soon. Somewhere in here is also a diatribe about Russia, or does that come later? That
comes later when we're overhearing Liquid berate
That's right.
Before that, Russian.
Before that, Otacon has to come in clutch.
With ketchup.
And a handkerchief.
This is good. I genuinely think this is peak video game where you have Otacon come and try to help you, and Otacon's like, I don't know how the fuck to get you out, but I brought you food.
Thanks, Otacon.
And then you have to pretend the ketchup is blood so the guard will come into the room.
Yeah, a really interesting thing I noticed about the reactivity of the game, if you run around in your cell and make a lot of noise with your footsteps, the guard will yell at you, which I think is super funny, and also a very funny way to set up, when you go silent and he looks in and you're covered in ketchup, that is actually kind of concerning if you've been running around like a jackass every time you've been in your cell.
Catch me standing against every wall, pounding on it constantly as Solid Snake.
One of the funny things about this scene, too, is you can accidentally eat the ketchup, and then you have to hide under the bed for, literally 10 minutes. In real time, so that he'll come and investigate under the bed.
Sorry. I'm just imagining Snake regurgitating a cigarette, smoking, and then just squirting Heinz in his mouth.
My man loves his ketchup.
Hey, do I like this game? Hold on. I feel like I'm getting brainwashed.
Oh, you got the brain rot. It started.
Oh, no.
The Metal Gear brain rot.
So Snake breaks out of prison, gets his stuff back. Classic, your stuff is down the hall from the prison
chest.
cell.
Yeah.
We kept it all in one chest for you. You're welcome.
Although, admittedly, Ocelot did put a bomb in there, which, if you don't discard it right away, it will just blow up later and kill you.
That's funny.
So that's fun. And then we get another baffling thing, which is you try to go up the communications tower and cross the bridge so that you can get to Metal Gear. The door is frozen shut, and Otacon says they always used C4 to open it. What do you mean always, dog? You mean, that's a one-time thing, I'm pretty sure.
I often use C4 to clear my driveway after it snowed and ice over. It works when my windshields on my car are frozen over. I just slap a stick of C4 on there and let it rip.
Then we get one of the first iteration of one of the most important lines in the entire series, which is Liquid! As Liquid shoots the bridge down in his Hind D.
Oh yeah, by the way, Liquid's piloting the Hind D, a helicopter that requires 2 pilots solo, because he's just that good.
I'm so glad you had facts. I wondered if you were going to have facts about...
I got Hind D facts.
The Hind is so iconic. For some reason, it's Kojima read a weapons fetishization magazine or something. It was I want that one and that one and that one and that one.
He's so obsessed.
He's a gun otaku. You have to respect him. Thus begins my favorite fucking codec call. After the bridge gets blown up and you have to rappel down it, when you are at least for the person I was watching, he was halfway down the wall when the codec call came in to explain how to rappel.
Oh, yeah.
I love the idea of you get a call from somebody and they're like, Snake, do you know how to use a rope? And you're just hanging there on the rope no.
I love this too because so the rope is an item you can technically miss picking up.
Yeah.
And so when you actually approach it, Snake will say, "Oh, I wish I had some rope." But if you already have the rope, he'll say, "Oh, I wish I had some rope. I can use this rope I have."
It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny.
It's so funny.
There is no dialogue substitution. It's just both back to back. It's very funny.
I thought you were going to talk about the Ken Love Bloom on the Battlefield codec call, which is also during this part.
The gayest fucking...
Bruh.
There's a lot that fucking happens with Otacon.
This is an unmistakably homosexual conversation. I
was really invested. I will say this is the moment where I was more invested in Otacon as a character because of what he does with the active camo. Because he's talking about like he wants to support Snake and do stuff. And Snake, the same words that he says to Meryl, basically, he says to Otacon, which is like, you're a rookie, you don't know what you're doing, you need to find some place to hide and let me handle this. But Otacon is insistent on helping. And he puts on the active camo and he says, it doesn't matter if I do this. It's like I'm not here and then I'm not scared. And I was like, I can't care about Piss Man. I don't know if he had time to change his jeans. This whole game, he may just smell like piss.
No, it's too cold. It probably froze.
Anyway, it was nuts. Then you fight Liquid.
You fight Liquid in the Hind. This is like shockingly easy. You just fire. You happen to have a stinger in like the 5 minutes before this. You just fire fucking stinger missiles at it.
Nico, can you do a line read with me? I want you to do the Love Can Bloom on a Battlefield entire dialogue with me. Do you want to be Otacon or Solid Snake?
I think you do a better Snake. So.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Have you ever loved someone?
That's what you came to ask?
No, I was wondering if even soldiers fall in love.
What are you trying to say?
I want to ask you, do you think love can bloom, even on a battlefield?
Yeah, I do. I think at any time, any place, people can fall in love with each other. But if you love someone, you have to be able to protect them. Y'all, this is the gayest shit ever. The truest ship.
Why did he say that .jpeg?
Like, the compat explanation is that he's thinking about Meryl in this moment, but the text of the video game is that Snake is inches away from caressing Otacon's chin when he says this.
Yes.
There is no way. There's no way.
And listen. Obviously, I admitted at the top that I came into this franchise from gay fanfic about Snake and Otacon. There's a lot of shipper goggles and shit that you can say about this, but it is just really funny to talk about the line between gruff masculinity and being with your bros in a repressive culture and how that bleeds into queer people can look at this and go, damn, especially if at the end an option is to ride away with Otacon.
Yeah.
In the exact same seat Meryl would have been. Anyway,
Yeah.
Bisexual King Snake.
Yeah. I mean,
There are two very extreme groups of gay people. There is the Fire Island clubbing gay, everybody's oiled and touching each other, and there is men in the military. Both are the most gay things in the world, and at some point we have to come out and say it. Just kiss your bros. Kiss your
Just
auto
kiss
bros.
the homies goodnight.
Kiss the homies goodnight.
Good night.
No, the line read I thought you were going to have me do is the line that Snake says as the Hind D crashes in flames, which is, see you in hell, Liquid, which is what I say when I drink milk. I'm lactose intolerant. Hey, everybody.
Get me out of here.
You don't have to drink milk if you're lactose intolerant. Okay.
No, I do. Anyway,
then we lead from that directly into the actual Sniper Wolf fight, you can just fire missiles at her.
First, we get the elevator fight scene from Captain America Winter Soldier.
Oh, right.
With Invisible.
Yeah.
But they're invisible because Otacon calls him and he's like, hey, I lost some shit.
This is I thought this was like super fun military sci-fi bullshit. Like,
oh my god,
pretty
it's such
cool.
good military shit.
They're in the elevator with
the elevator turned back on its own and moved up there, and it's like there are ways that you can like catch this before it happens. Like if you put on the thermal goggles, you see them, right? Like you can catch this before they ambush you, but then they're just like, you're gonna fucking die here, Snake. Which, as you know, if you're ambushing somebody from stealth, you want to Give out your intent verbally.
Immediately do a yell.
You also want to stand in a square directly across from each other.
Yeah, good crossfire, guys. Good crossfire. I did die on that fight a few times because, like, when you get shot as Snake, Snake has to visually react and you lose your animation.
Oh, yeah, you get caught in the animation.
So fucking
the frames. But yeah, then the fight happens with Sniper Wolf that I watched almost exclusively from the perspective of a Nikita guided missile. Watching it as it approached her thighs.
Yeah, that's really the best way to do it, because the thing about the sniper controls is that, like, you can turn the sensitivity up all the way and you'll, like, dragging that scope across the fucking field of vision is the most agonizing. I don't know how this got past anybody I mean, it's because it was 1998 and
yeah,
3D video games are 3D video games in 1998, but oh my God, it was unbelievable.
I will say, I love this fight. This is the first in what will be a long series of amazing sniper characters and sniper battles in this game. Like, that shit does it to me.
Even though her shit was unzipped to her belly button, I have nothing but respect for Sniper Wolf.
Yeah, so she wears a coverall that's zipped all the way down to her navel and is basically just showing her whole pussy to the world. But, which, like, in the middle of Alaskan winter, a little cold, okay, but
you know
anyway.
What? She's made a different stuff. She's built different. Hoes don't get cold, neither do snipers.
I mean, they drop some shit where it's like, oh, she'll wait for weeks for the perfect shot and shit. Something I do love is that they don't make her a weak-ass bitch. If you get up on her, she will CQC the shit out of you and fuck you up and get distance from you. And I love that.
She's like one of the better, I think, illustrated characters. I think her like dying sequence is the best one out of all the villains too, because
that's one I cried. I cry pretty much every time I see it.
It's good. It's so good because like it really illustrates the way like Snake and this comes up with his history with Frank Yeager too, or Gray Fox. Or Gray Fox, aka Frank Yeager, aka Cyborg Ninja, is that like like battle is both extremely personal and extremely impersonal to him. He will always like listen to his opponent's stories. He always treats them with respect in their final moments. And he goes out of his way to comfort her.
Yeah.
And give her a peaceful, instantaneous death.
Yeah, like he lets her get her piece out, but she specifically asks him to kill her clean because she's been lung shot.
Yeah.
I will say, it's so funny. So Otacon's supposed to be in love with Sniper Wolf because she took him to see dogs and hung out with him and was nice.
Yeah.
It's the most nothing burger relationship.
He is in the cuck chair at the hotel during this scene because Sniper Wolf is like connecting with Solid Snake, and Solid Snake is like crouched by her side, you know, emotionally, and like listening to her talk about her history and like how the conflict being Kurdish, like how that factored into her view of the world and everything. And Otacon is just also there. And the note I have is like, he's in the cuck chair, that's his energy, but also if he could be sandwiched between them, I think he'd just die.
I think this one in particular, and it happens with all of his other fights with people. Metal Gear is a series of boss fights, but it's a series of warriors meeting each other on the battlefield, and there's the unspoken respect. And Hideo Kojima has talked a lot about like the bond you create when you're fighting with somebody. You might be the most hated of enemies, but like you can have that bond. So when the series goes to places where people use underhanded tactics and shit like that, it hurts more because like the fight with Sniper Wolf, it's straight up. She's not trying any special tricks. She's like, you're going to fight me in my best and I'm going to fight you in your best. And so when you're like holding her as she is dying, well, holding her hand as she's dying, it's like, no. She earned a warrior's death. I'm not going to let her just have blood soak into her lungs and have her slowly die. I'm going to put her down like a dog.
Yeah, put her down like a dog that she loved, which is the point at which you lose the handkerchief that you can use to get past hostile dogs because Snake covers her face with it and says he doesn't need any more because I don't have any more tears to shed.
Yep. They're actually, I mean, that to me, that's kind of a banger line.
It is kind of a banger line after giving up a handkerchief, but...
There's so many banger lines.
It's a lot. Anyway, the birds are back.
The birds are
Birds are back.
That is my note.
Wait, before we get to Vulcan Raven, you get your first codec call from Miller, who is like turning you against Dr. Hunter for good reason. Like she is at the core, like one of the main people at fault here. But one of the things he says is that her, like, because she dishes to you about her backstory before this, and he's like, she's lying. You know why I know she's lying? Because she said her grandfather was Japanese, and J. Edgar Hoover was too racist to have that happen.
Because he worked at the FBI, and J. Edgar Hoover wouldn't let a Jap work in the FBI, which is true. Fuck J. Edgar Hoover. Everybody jot that down. Fuck J. Edgar Hoover.
Fuck J. Edgar Hoover.
No, it was really funny because I had the same moment and I hated it because I was like, oh man, is this video game good? Because I had the same moment when she said that and I was like, wait, I took a class on Asian American Pacific Islander history. That doesn't make any sense how someone would get, and then when he calls it out, I was like, oh, I hate that I'm on the same page with this guy.
This game is really good at just, like, it throws so many things at you that are kind of crazy that, like, you miss a lot of the hints that it drops to its larger plot like that are just great. Also, it's not Miller. It's Master.
It's Master. It's fucking
Miller.
Kochi.
It's literally Sensei.
Fucking Kochi.
He's literally calling him Sensei. Ah, my Sensei.
Colonel Campbell also calls him Master.
Yeah.
Which was weird to me.
So the birds are back.
And also, it's Liquid Snake the whole time. Spoilers.
Whoa.
That reveal was so funny.
It's the same voice.
King, Snake cannot tell British people apart.
It was great. Because, like, even when I first played it, I was like, okay, come on.
The Metal Gear Solid 2 does something way more fun with this kind of thing on the codec calls. But I just think that this is such a funny thing because I remember in the cultural consciousness of like Metal Gear fan base, like this was like one of the more like famous quote unquote twists. And it's just like, man, that is the same guy. He literally took off his glasses, let his hair down, and he became a pretty
His cool ass sunglasses. Yeah.
Anyway, the birds are back, and my note here is, what is the fucking situation with Vulcan Raven? What is happening? You want to pull each other's ears?
He's a shaman. He's a little shaman.
The pulling ear thing is actually a real...
I know, but it's just like, it's so weird how much of like, so Vulcan Raven is supposed to be a native character, and
Yes.
it is such a weird situation to be in where it commits one of the cardinal sins of native depictions, of like depicting Native American people, which is just giving them weird spiritual powers. Like, just don't do it. Like, this is a note. If you are a writer or a creator who's thinking, I might have a native character and make them spiritual, do not make the mistake of Planes 2, the movie, and give your native character spiritual powers. It's a fuck up. But then also there's tons of actual facts about like native people, especially in Alaska, which is just...
And like there's a degree to which like he has, I mean, you know, like I've definitely seen worse. Like he has a story, he has agency. I mean, he gives Snake the key card willingly because like for him, it's similar to Sniper Wolf. For him, this was about fighting Snake. It was never about Foxhound, really.
And I do think this is helped a lot by the fact you just fought Sniper Wolf and established like the intimate experiences you can have with an opponent across the battlefield. Because otherwise, this would feel even more weirdly spiritual. But, like, you can understand after Psycho Mantis's death and after Sniper Wolf's death, you can understand the respect that, and especially in light of the fact that Snake used to be on their squad, you can understand the respect that's extended by, like, giving him hints at the end of battle. And so it doesn't feel as weird here as it could have, I mean to say.
One thing that's been happening throughout almost every conversation we have with anybody in this game is that we have to flash to sepia-drenched machine porn of Metal Gear Rex.
It's so funny.
I love
it looks like
so
the footage
much.
of the Reapers from Mass Effect 1.
It's so fun.
Also, sometimes they just throw in random real footage when they're talking about some stuff that's just like fucking wild.
Yeah. And the series never stops doing that. It's very fun. I enjoy those weird, extremely long diatribes quite a lot.
I am an FMV enjoyer, so I will say when FMV showed up in this game, I was like, oh yeah, this is my shit.
Yeah.
So.
It's to speak to Alice's thing earlier of like how Sniper Wolf is like 1v1 me in the snowfield, like no holds barred. This is just legit fight competition. It was very funny to me to go from that to Vulcan Raven, who has this big speech about like much of the same thing, and then to immediately just coat the room in claymores and hide and just win.
Yeah, his fight is he literally has the gun from the A-10 Warthog that he's carrying and shooting, which is like, Yeah, that's fine. Okay. That weighs as much as a beetle, like a VW beetle, but cool. He also fought you in a tank earlier in like a little small fight. It kind of like primed you for him. But yeah, the fight is he just walks around this refrigerator shooting and you just have to. There's many ways to fight him, right?
It's an
like
ultra cold zone. It's a labyrinth of like storage containers. It will be relevant later. It was a weird fight to watch.
So we finally get to Metal Gear Rex's hangar. The music sting when you finally walk up to his big steppers is all-timer. It's so good. You finally see him in person.
Fuck yes, because this whole game, everyone is talking about Metal Gear Rex. That is the driving factor we are talking about. You're trying to get there. We all keep talking about how powerful, and then you come into this hangar and you just see these big stompers, and you're like, oh shit, it's real. Mechs is real.
I love the fact that so much of the navigation of this level is climbing over and around Metal Gear Rex.
Yeah, you're on the gantry. You're climbing the gantry around this. It's such like a, I don't want to say, it's not a letdown, but like your first time seeing Metal Gear Rex, it's just sitting unused in the hangar. It's just there.
It's kind of an anticlimax.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you expect to come in and it be guns blazing at you, but it's inert right now.
And there's nobody, like, there's very few guards around. It's just quiet.
That's like a plot point too, right?
Yeah.
I think this first sequence is kind of a, what do they call it, deflationary move in that way.
Yeah.
But what it also does is when Metal Gear Rex does actually finally move, it's so dynamic and interesting and like scary because you're a guy. You're just a guy down there.
Because you look at it and you're like, how the fuck does this move? Yeah, you literally have to climb over its head during one of those sneak sections while you're going to the control center of it. And like, that shit's big. Like,
that's a big fucking mech, guys.
You fight an M1 Abrams, and this dwarfs it so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy.
Some of the best military sci-fi jargon bullshit talk ever is them discussing the nuclear railgun like launch tactics. It's so cool.
This was so interesting to me. Because I've listened to a book called Ignition, which is on the history and research of rocket fuels between the US and the Soviet Union during the period following World War II. And like, there was so much stupid ass experimentation trying to get a viable mixture for the rocket fuel that could, one, like do what you wanted it to do, but two, actually be like something you could store, not kill your techs who were trying to put it together. Like, there's so much history, the volatility of chemicals in propelled weapons. And it's so interesting to me because I hadn't even thought about the fact that some of our early warning systems and some of our ways of detecting a nuclear launch would be based on that chemical information, like the propellants of those missiles. And the fact that, I don't know how feasible it is, but when they're like, you could launch it with a railgun and thered be absolutely no trace of a propellant, my brain that had absorbed this book was like, I enjoyed it.
So what this does, and the Metal Gear Solid is, like most Japanese media and mech media, is a metaphor for nuclear armament and the race for the better nuke, the best nuke, right? Mm-hmm. And so what this does is, so a lot of, I mean, there's a reason not every country has ballistic missile capability. Mm-hmm. And even if they do, it can't reach everywhere, right? Like, there are very few countries that have the infrastructure and the power to do that. And it requires such a system to support a launch structure. So a lot of the different kinds of early detection are like sniffers in the air, radar domes, and especially now satellites, right? You point a satellite down at a missile field and you can see the flare up of the rocket because you have to like liquid cool them, and there's a lot of gases coming out. There's some pre-warning. That's why nuclear subs were such a like advancement of that, because they can pop up anywhere, so you don't really know. They still take time to get ready, so you have a chance to catch them, but you really don't catch them until you get that flare of a launch, because we've built so many things to capture what a rocket launch looks like. So then you have Metal Gear. The whole idea is you put a special nuclear warhead into a railgun, and you fire it so fast, and because a railgun, it's just electromagnets, right? It's just flinging a hunk of metal. You can do that just without flaring up on any satellite imagery, and if it's on Metal Gear, which is a mobile platform, you can do that from anywhere. You can move the Metal Gear around, because like Russia's missile corps, right? And now we see with China's missile corps, right? one of their biggest things is like their mobile launch capability. They can drive somewhere into deep woods, hide it under some brush, and then when they're ready, they just pop that shit up and fire. But we can still catch those things, again, because of the propellants. So why Metal Gear is such a scary concept. And yeah, it's kind of sci-fi. Like, we now have seen that railguns are really not something that is viable in any way in our current world. Like, but the concept of the Metal Gear, of not just a weapons platform, but a undetectable launch system of nuclear warheads, means they can have the strike capability to take out anything. And then you have gotten around the Star Wars program, right? Like, there's no way to effectively deter Metal Gear. And you see it in like modern issues with nuclear warheads, especially in a post-Soviet collapse and nuclear de-armament, is like, that nuclear material is out there. The biggest threat for nuclear war right now is not the full mad, mutually assured destruction big nation states throwing, because we have ways to connect and ways to detect, right? There's a hard stop there. It's a nuke that you can't trace. It's a dirty bomb. It's a loose nuke. And Metal Gear is multiple loose nukes just out there.
And I mean, that's a lot of our FMV sequences, right, are talking about the handling of nuclear material and the disarmament, and how nuclear warheads are decommissioned and how many have ended up at this facility.
Also wrapped up in this is like how much, how desperate the Pentagon was to get their hands on this, how messy this got, and how Foxhound was able to manipulate that mess of like all these old white dudes trying to get one over on each other so that they can say that they put their name on Metal Gear Rex, right?
Yeah, because there's a whole thing about the START treaties and about the global community potentially denouncing the United States if this comes to light. And I just had to laugh. Imagine the UN having the power to effectively denounce the United States in any way that matters.
Imagine. Another thing that comes up is that all Roy Campbell has ever done throughout this whole game has lie horribly to you. He sucks so bad.
Colonel kind of fucking sucks, guys. By the way.
Sucks. We also get that Naomi sucks. She created Fox Die, which is the Death Note.
Yeah, that's what's been killing people with heart attacks. It's this like, is it nanomachines or is it a virus? I forget.
It is a virus. It's both. It will, and as the series goes on, it will become more both until nanomachines becomes the word that they use to cover plot holes of any kind.
I will say part of this whole sequence and series of events is dealing with the PAL key to try to shut down Metal Gear. This looked tedious as fuck.
I didn't mind it. I thought it was kind of cool.
Trying to get to the heat and the cold and backtracking, like...
The backtracking sucks. I think the concept is neat. I wish that there had been... I wish they didn't make you walk through both of those areas before finding out that thing about the key. That just makes no sense to me.
Backtracking to pad length. Video games of that time, man. When they assumed people would sit down and play something 50 times because you had one video game, made sense, but I hated it then, I hate it now.
But this is also interesting part of the game too, because like we find out our big hero protagonist has been taking just massive L's the whole time. He was manipulated by the US government to be a like bioweapon to clean up their mess, and he was manipulated by Liquid to use the PAL keys to actually initiate the launch sequence, right?
By the way,
he was never on top of it. He
was the bioweapon. Naomi gave him a shot to go in. He's the one releasing Fox Die to everybody.
Yeah, the whole plot with Naomi is batshit, but yeah.
Well, he's accelerating Fox Die with them, but yeah, he's basically, and the whole plot is like, you are going to deactivate the nuclear warhead so they can't use Metal Gear for a first strike, right? Like, they keep saying you have to get this PAL key so you can deactivate it, right? Like, you've got to deactivate Metal Gear so the terrorists can't use it.
And this is when we find out what happened to our favorite boy, our special guy, Decoy Octopus, who I know everyone was super worried about.
We haven't seen him by this point.
He fucking bit it impersonating the DARPA chief because he caught super COVID from Snake. It's incredibly funny.
Literally died in the beginning. You never actually see what he looks like. Decoy Octopus just dies.
It's funny because this is such a running thing of Metal Gear villains, which is that he is so deeply in on the bit of his shtick that he took the DARPA chief's blood as part of the fucking disguise. Bitch, wear a mask. Like, what?
Like they're gonna test it. Well, it's weird because like they do test his blood.
I guess they do have genome, like genetic markers and shit. Yeah,
so
but
dumb.
it's just it's that thing that you kind of know this already because like you see the DARPA chief's corpse earlier, and I think somebody even says straight up, "Hey, by the way, that wasn't the DARPA chief," and then like they hang up on you. I think that was Deep Throat. Oh, by the way, Deep Throat's in this game.
Yeah, you just get a random call from Deep Throat. Hey, Deep Throat. So there's this whole dialogue scene where you sneak up to the control center for Rex, and it's Liquid Snake and Ocelot, and I think this informs a lot of where this series ended up going.
Mm-hmm.
So Ocelot, his big character arc is restoring the glory of the Soviet Union, right? He keeps talking about it.
He's a Soviet cowboy.
He's a Soviet cowboy.
He has contacts in the Spetsnaz who are going to come and reinforce them and help them out, but they want to see that Metal Gear Rex works first. And this is where Liquid starts to show that, oh, he's batshit crazy. And he's like, I'm going to get my $1 billion, which was a lot of money at the time. And we're going to have Metal Gear, and we're going to start Outer Heaven again here. We're going to not side with the Soviets or America.
The nouns start coming, and they don't stop coming.
He just keeps dropping shit. But yeah, he's basically like, because they really lean into this is part of the Cold War extended. And then it's like, oh no, Liquid never cared about the Soviet Union. He was also just using them to get material, the Hind D, Otacon, all of that.
It's interesting. It's like they're envisioning a future with terrorists that have been bioengineered by the state that are out of control. And like I was saying about the end of history, it's like Ocelot is caught up in Russia as a state. Sniper Wolf is caught up in being Kurdish and like that history of that time. Like there are so many characters in this that are linked to a state or a nation or a history. And it's like Liquid is not invested in any of that. He wants to make something entirely new, which is, it's interesting. It seems to convey like anxieties about what the world after the end of history looks like.
You're 100% right. And I think that's really wrapped up in things like, I mean, Naomi's whole deal is that she's a product of violent colonialism and she doesn't know her own past.
Yep.
And there's a way in which like the way that Star Wars makes machine parts and disability link to humanity or lack thereof, this game very deliberately also, I think, links that instead of linking it to like machine parts and disability, it links it to family history, genetics, knowing where you came from, family, and reproduction.
It's bioessentialism and biology is such a core part of this.
It is. And like, you know, that's where you get Liquid saying things like, we were accomplices in murder before the day we were even born. He resents Solid Snake.
The super baby method.
Super baby method.
He hates his dad. Guys, fuck Big Boss, right? Surely there's no, like, part of this series in which we'll like Big Boss, right? Is Nico dead?
I'm still thinking about the super baby method. The plot is insane at this point. All the threads are converging in a way that just had my mouth hanging open. I'm like, this is where it was all going?
And I mean, to be clear, like this is what we're going to stay. This like whole kind of thread pulling together, like the picture that this paints is the picture that we're going to interrogate for the rest of the series.
Oh my god!
And so, I think, I mean, a lot of it is like weird, campy, bizarre, like incomprehensible bullshit, and some of it is just extremely, extremely interesting. Like, you know, what makes a person. What makes a life lived? What makes like what about your history and who you are and your background makes up what you're capable of doing in life?
What nation you came from? What your parents were? All of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think makes it even funnier that Otacon is just a guy. He has no like. He's just a dude. He's just a scientist.
Well, he's immersed himself in a culture that he's borrowed. He seems alienated from his own.
Well, he talks about how his father and his grandfather were both like tangentially involved in nuclear armament.
Yeah, oh my god, that's right. He has the nuclear curse.
He has the nuclear curse, and at this point in the game series, he is just a guy. We will find out a lot more about his father, who's a piece of shit.
I know a little about this.
All dads are bad.
Worst person in the franchise.
Dads bad.
Dads suck.
Dads suck in this series.
Anyway, the fight starts happening with Metal Gear, and my one major note is the cockpit is like a mouth and can roar. Damn, okay. The shit rips.
It's so...
Oh, but by the way, they were tricking you the whole time so you would get the PAL key and activate it.
Yeah, you activate
they actually
the whole
had
shit.
no way to activate it. You did it. Good job, Snake.
I mean, this is...
Let's talk about the fight. Guys,
incredible.
It's so fucking good. Let's talk about sense of scale. A single soldier fighting Metal Gear Rex. Holy shit. It takes up the entire screen. If you get close, it tries to fucking stomp on you.
If it stomps on you, it's immediate game over.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like you've absorbed a lot of bullets in this game so far.
Yeah.
You are not immune to Big Stepper.
And Metal Gear is like, it's actually a well-designed mech. Like, it doesn't have viewports. You can't just shoot Liquid as he's piloting it. You have to, like, get his sensors destroyed, so he has to go open cockpit to fight you.
One of my, I love Metal Gear Rex's feet. I love those pneumatics, spikers that keep it stable when it steps. Oh, my God. It is just so detailed and so good and so scary because you're just, like, in this thing's crotch trying to fire stingers at it, and it is, like, roaring and shit. Ugh. So good.
Yeah, and everybody you call is just like, good fucking luck, Snake. It's a goddamn war machine.
For the first part of this fight, you're like basically just trying to shoot missiles and survive.
It's so funny to me because it reminds me, because obviously I hadn't played these games, but there is an iconic part of, I think it's Mass Effect 3? Yeah. You engage a Reaper on foot.
Yes.
And what you're doing basically is just painting a target so that your ship can fire on it. Which makes sense because it's upgraded from like human versus mech to human versus gigantic fucking warship, basically. But I didn't feel as preposterous about the sense of scale in that as I did in this. I felt like you felt a lot more, you felt so much smaller as Snake than you did as Shepard in that sequence, even though I think Mass Effect was trying to capture kind of the same energy.
Well, in Mass Effect, like that specific scene in Mass Effect 3, you're literally just on a ridge firing at it from a distance, and you really don't, like, once it gets up to you, it's already heavily damaged, and it's pretty clear, like, as long as I hit these, it's gonna get destroyed. Like, you don't feel a sense of danger.
The stakes are not the same. Yeah.
This is a very brutal game. Like, you will redo fights so many times, and it took me every time I play this game, this fight is impossible for me.
It's very
so
difficult.
bad at video games.
I do think I had a harder time. The hardest fight in the series to me is the one at the end of Metal Gear Solid 2, but this was harrowing, and in a way that I was just like, oh my God. And then I think one of the coolest just like sci-fi shit, like mech things that ever happens, which is that Cyborg Ninja shows up and destroys the radome so that Liquid has to open his cockpit. It's so good. That's so fun.
It's
Cyborg Ninja. I had a lot. At a certain point, you have to let go and let God. You have to be on board or not, and I was.
You do, because we are not done with this. We are done with this Cyborg Ninja.
We aren't even close.
What?
We aren't even close to how batshit this game gets. And I think you were about to allude to a different Cyborg Ninja.
I was going to say, we are done with this Cyborg Ninja, but we are not done with Cyborg Ninjas. There are many more.
It's a running theme. But yeah, you get him open, you have to shoot him in the cockpit while the thing is moving around. It still fucking sucks. And eventually you down him, right? Like, I don't know, the second phase really sucks too.
I love the second phase because, like, you just kind of have to deal with, okay, so yeah, Gray Fox shows up, stabs the radome, blows it up, and then gets stomped on and dies immediately, and it's really sad.
Is it?
But then his corpse is just there in the corner while you try to do this. Yeah, and then you very pointedly, I don't know, without like revealing too much, I'm pretty sure you are able to just get Liquid out of the cockpit. I'm not sure to what degree we're supposed to see that Rex is completely disabled here.
All I know is at some point, your shirt vanishes.
Yeah.
Liquid shirt vanishes.
Yeah.
And you fist fight Bearskins on top of the mech.
1v1 me.
For a woman.
Which is so funny. It's so funny. We will talk about this. Or we will have talked about this in the Robot Jocks episode. A very funny moment of, well, technology has failed us. All we've got is a rock. Or in this case, all we've got is our fists.
So there's so many layers to it, because also Liquid has set a bomb that's going to blow you all up. somehow. Meryl is laying there passed out on the ground, and you have to fist fight on top of the downed Rex on the head. And like, I love it because you're like, if you get knocked off, you grab onto the edge and can climb back up. And yeah, you have to defeat him in a time frame. And there's like red sirens blaring, and it's so fucking cool.
I was sent to the moon when they're like, they show Snake and you're sitting there in your sneaking suit, and then in the next shot, your shirt is just gone. Like, they didn't do a disrobing sequence like they did in the beginning. Your shirt, through the power of liquid.
No, they did. It was off camera, and it was the exact one from that very first pilot of Letterkenny.
Start soft, boys.
Oh my god. Anyway, all of my notes from here on are just like, this is wild. What the fuck is happening? Masculinity is a hell of a drug. Heterosexuality is a hell of a drug.
We go full action movie ending.
Oh.
Full action movie ending. We get to ride away on a snowmobile as the shit explodes because the U.S. is doing a bombing run.
The worst car chase ever.
Oh my god.
Right. Yeah, that
Don't
shit
forget
sucks.
that.
It's so bad. It's so awful.
Of course Liquid isn't dead. Like, one of my notes is just fucking Liquid.
Well, one of the running themes is Les Enfants Terribles. Just
the product of the Super Baby program.
They cannot
They
die.
cannot die.
And you're carrying around the Death Note virus, but Liquid's like, well, I haven't died yet, so I'm pretty confident I'm immune. Don't worry, this tool will help us later.
By the way, 5 seconds ago, I just talked about how I have all of the recessive genes and you have all the dominant genes, but I'm fine because you're fine, so don't worry about it.
Literally says, I got the shit genes from Dad. Also, they aborted like 8 of the other versions of us, so it's just us two, and I got the shittiest part of it.
I initially laughed because of the supposition that the genes that make you blonde and British are the shit genes, and then the reveal later, it's like, hello? Anyway.
He dies from fox die.
But no, yeah, he chases you. He chases you out. He dies from fox die. If you saved Meryl, you ride away with Meryl and tell her your name, and it's comp head as fuck. And Naomi will tell you, of course, no matter what happens, that you will eventually die from fox die. This is extremely important.
Yeah, but she doesn't give you a timeline, which is interesting. No, she's just live with the uncertainty.
At this point, it's become clear that fox die didn't work the way it was supposed to because it didn't kill everybody, right? And so she's just like, I don't know. And she will continue to not know, and it will be
kind of goes through the series.
Yeah.
When am I gonna go?
That's up to you.
What do you mean?
Everybody dies when their time is up.
Yeah, so when's mine up?
It's up to you how you use the time left to you. Live, Snake. That's all I can say to you.
And then at the end, we get a The More You Know slideshow of Hideo Kojima giving us nuclear facts.
Look.
Did you see the after credits little dialogue?
Yes, I did. Thank Christ. I will never thank Marvel movies for anything, but I immediately went, okay, there's credits. I feel like there might be stuff at the end. And there's like 3 different ones.
Yeah. Our father Kojima can be quite long in the tooth.
He has stuff to say, and he's never done talking.
The most important thing that comes out of this is the Ocelot thing, right?
Yep.
Which is that he is a quadruple, triple, quintuple agent of everybody, and nobody knows who the fuck he actually works for.
And the president is implicated even further. He's working directly for the big man.
Yeah.
We love
it. Wild. And I just watched the YouTube video all the way to the end where it tried to autoplay me because I was waiting for one more sentence to happen.
So I want to talk about a couple of overarching themes before we get into the important business matters. So military otakuism, right? Mm-hmm. So Japan is a demilitarized country. They technically can't have a standing offensive army, only a defense force.
Yeah, we talked about this in Pat Labor for the listeners who may not have heard that one.
So after the Reiwa era, as we came out of, the Cold War, there has a growing fascination of it. And what a lot of Hideo Kojima does and what a lot of what he's into is the military, right? Like there's a military advisor on this game, for example. But what ends up happening is like, it's this mix of fetishization of the military and like how cool military shit can be. But it goes like so long into the sci-fi of it and just like trying to make like a country that hasn't had, like in Pat Labor 2, a country that hasn't had to fight a true war in so long has this perverse thought about war, especially like America at the time had gone through the Cold War and everything and had, you know, that recent in its mind, the constant threat.
And tons of proxy conflicts.
Yes.
Tons of proxy conflicts.
Japan did not participate in any of those, right? This was before any of the Middle East stuff. And so like to them, like this is just cool ass shit, right? Spec Ops shit. Spec Ops shit is so cool. And I think it really comes through in this series that, like, the fetishization that Kojima has for military hardware and military shit, it's a different kind of perversion than you have in, like, a Western sphere. Like, in the Western sphere, it's really, like, high speed, low drag, you know, Mission Impossible bullshit, versus this, where it's, like, there is a bigger purpose at play to what the sci-fi and the tactical espionage is doing.
Yeah, I also think there's an undercurrent of fear. Like, he keeps coming back to the lost nuclear materials and, like, the idea of loose nukes and the idea of where do we go from here and how does technology advance. Like, as much as there is, like, an appreciation for it, it's not all rah-rah, this shit rules, it's going to keep getting better forever. There's definitely some of that, but there's also, like, a deep fear about what the future holds.
I think he says a lot. I think he hates war. I think he's very... I don't want to speak to him, and I don't read interviews from that man because it's all gobbledygook, but... I like this, depending on how you take this game, and I think there's really no other way to take it than war fucking sucks. The military-industrial complex fucking sucks, and it does garbage.
I do think we are supposed to align with Snake when he says that, like, you know, there's no such thing as a war hero. There's no, like, when it comes down to it, there's no good or bad here. We are just slaughtering each other. I think that this will become clear as crystal in the next game, but I do think there is an extremely heavy... like side eye leveled at, you know, U.S. imperial expansionism and the ways in which, like, from our own public, we are just like trying to like both reinforce this weird nationalistic bent that we've always been on, right? But also like lie to the very like constituents that we kind of feed propaganda to in a way that like almost every single time we see it deployed in these games, it leads to disaster or it becomes messy enough to become like a crisis. And so like I think that's going to be, especially when we implicate the president at the end, which I can't talk about that yet.
So I wanted to talk about that, and I also wanted to talk about 90s action films. So a lot of what inspires this is, and it's very clear, especially in the next one, Escape from LA and Escape from New York, and those just kind of like schlocky, badass dude, Mad Max kind of vibes. And I mean, it inspires so much of who Snake is. Like, Hideo Kojima idolizes the disgruntled, done with it badass, right? Who everyone wants him. Everyone wants to
He's also
him.
going to, I mean, including Kojima, he's also going to use Snake to levy criticism at that image too, though, in a way that I think is really interesting.
Opposed to like the commando type of hero who, like, even when the US government is bad, it's good, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I agree. I also think that we'll see a lot more of that, and we'll also see a lot of, there's a couple of moments of this too, where it's like... there's like a joke made out of the fact that Snake is actually not really that smart.
He's kind of dumb.
And I just that's kind of also part of that to me.
I love it. Those are my only other thoughts that I kind of wanted to get out, especially as we go into the series. I think it becomes even more of a damnation of like people who idolize and fetishize the military and military technology, and also like action movies. Like you can track these games during their development period and what action movies came out at the time, because it is kind of a response.
That's really cool.
Well, and also what was going on. I mean, to foreshadow a little bit, like the Big Shell incident being an oil spill is not an accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The game 4 especially is very much a reaction to what was happening in the world.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, touching on that ripped from the headlines, there were a couple of points that I was interested in, but I feel like we kind of went over them. But one thing, DNA and genetics is so interesting in this movie, and it made me wonder, like, because Kojima's clearly ripping from the headlines in some ways. I was like, what is in the air right now? Like, what is happening? And so I did some research, and the earliest use of DNA in forensic crime solving was around 1986, I believe. That was when we had discovered in 1984 that DNA was unique enough that you could actually tie it back to the person it came from. So in the mid to late 80s, we're seeing the first emergence of what we would now consider pretty commonplace DNA forensics coming into law enforcement. Also, an interesting thing to note, so the NHGRI, which is the National Human Genome Research Institute, they started the Human Genome Project, which would eventually sequence human DNA, which only recently fully finished, but like this will be a huge development scientifically. That was established in 1989, and they began research on their genome mapping in 1990. So, like, this is all in the air in terms of, like, we're understanding genetics, we're understanding they're unique, and we're understanding that there are things we can find out from them which have a bearing on our future. And, like, so much of that, like, there were so many things that were like, let's find the gay gene, you know, let's find whatever. And there are things that really haven't borne out. We gotta
find that gene sometime, by the way.
There are so many things that haven't borne out because it's not that genetically cut and dry.
I mean, as a gay man, I can simply say I don't have any idea what my genes look like. I operate entirely on instinct. So,
so good.
That is a good pull.
This is also 2 years after Dolly was successfully cloned. Like,
yeah,
cloning
so
was very
cloning.
much it was very much during
cloning,
that hype of human cloning being like
this
possible.
idea that we would have cloning and that we would have genetically engineered
that we're
organisms.
basically there, right, guys? You know.
Yeah, no, but like a lot of that hasn't borne out in the way that this series envisions. But I mean, I can get a referral from my doctor for a test that'll tell me if I'm genetically predisposed to breast cancer. So it's interesting to think about what was in the air and what he was thinking about, because this game, especially as it wraps up, is so invested in biopolitics and like biology and genes as destiny, or genes not as destiny as it turns out. Because, of course, Liquid thought he got all the recessive genes, but it turns out, the switcheroo, actually it was Snake with all the recessive genes, which I don't think that's how that works, but you know.
I did like that twist, though, because it's
of course
the blonde hair, blue-eyed, sexy Bashojo man is not the recessive genes, but also, like, when you... and I don't want to spoil other games, but yeah, I think it was pretty neat. Imagine you're like going in for a checkup, like you got your blood drawn, and the doctor comes in and he says, I'm really sorry, it's you have fox dye. And you're like, oh shit, doc, how long do I have? And she's like, and your doctor is like,
live with the uncertainty.
You just have to live with that uncertainty. I'm like, I paid you so much money to be here. What the fuck does good luck
what's different between that scenario and regular healthcare?
yeah, as I'm learning.
Too soon, too real. Too soon, too real. Brian's right here, please.
Yep. Well, that's pretty much what I had to say on that. So,
did you have any other thoughts, Brian? I mean, like anything that we didn't touch on?
No, I think that the other stuff that's present in this series for me becomes extremely more talkable in Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah, there will be more to talk about, especially as it references other things. Like
I think that we should probably rate these this goddamn mech.
Mech.
Let's rate this goddamn mech.
The M1 is a mech.
Is Cyborg Ninja's suit a mech? It keeps him alive.
It's a full enclosure.
I do think it has to count.
What do we think? Does that count? Does the Hind D count?
The Hind D does not count, and the tank do not count. I think of those as those are vehicles.
Those are vehicles. But we can talk about them in terms of like the rating, I guess. But Alice, you give me your rating of Metal Gear Rex and its accoutrements.
Metal Gear Rex. Okay. Why I think Metal Gear Rex works so well as a mech is the story around it. Like, it is built up so much throughout the game. Like, you're coming to find Rex. You're there to defeat Rex. It's an entire game of build-up. People are talking about this motherfucker constantly, and it pays off so well. That fight is such a sense of scale, and Metal Gear Rex is, like, actually designed like a functional war machine. Brian, you talked about the stabilizing pylons, the way that it, has the recursive legs for better stance. It's like, it's an enclosed cockpit. It has a radar dome. It has other weapons besides just the long missile range. It is built.
Yeah, it has anti-personnel weapons.
It is built for war. It is built to not just be the only one, but the first one. And I love a guy. I love just it doesn't have a fun color. It's fucking gray. It has sharp angles because of the military design at the time was like, okay, sharp angles deflects things, right? We got to start leaning into that. But it's so just like brutalist, and fighting it is so hard because you're just a guy, but you can also defeat it. And I love the taking down of a Titan. I love, earning that. And so for me, Metal Gear Rex is an 8. Like, it is so iconic of a mech. It is so perfect. It could be better. I wish they had done some more with it, but limitations of the time. What about you, Nico?
It looks like a fucked up bird dinosaur, which immediately endears me to it. It's got big steppers. It's got a big gun. It has a funky head. And of course, the cockpit does open like a mouth, and it looks like it's roaring when fighting. I didn't know there were mechs in Metal Gear Solid. Like, that was not a thing I knew about the franchise, right? And so it's really funny to me. I don't know what I thought it was, because, like, obviously I'd heard of a weapon to surpass Metal Gear, Like, I'd heard that. But, like, I don't know what the fuck I thought it was. I didn't know it was a mech. And so it's one of those things where it's like, the experience of the mech is kind of thin on the ground. The fight obviously seems legendary in a way that reflects the disparity in scale between Snake and the mech. But again, like, there's only one. It's kind of thin on the ground. It makes sense that it's gray and it's military hardware. I do like that it looks inventive despite the fact that it is supposed to be kind of a covert machine. If the idea is this is supposed to be an undetectable platform, it makes sense for it to be gunmetal gray. But its funky little design is an interesting note. I feel like it lost some of its appeal when it got deactivated and men fought shirtless on top of it.
I think that added to it. I think that made it even better. Thank you.
Sorry, the lesbianism jumped out. No, I'm kidding. It was fine, but it felt like kind of a deflation for it to basically be the platform for the final fight, like for the actual final fight. I like it. I'm interested to see where the series goes from here, so I think it's fine to start at a pretty neutral 5.
Yeah, all valid.
This is your special boy.
All valid points. This is actually not my special boy.
I thought it would be your special boy.
This is not my favorite Metal Gear. There are other Metal Gear designs that I like a lot more. But it is iconic as shit. It's called Metal Gear Rex because it looks like a T-Rex. It has the bicycle seat helmet head.
I'm fucking stupid. I just put that together.
Yeah. I cannot just divorce it from the sweat-covered vitriol of 2 shirtless men fighting each other on top of it.
But that's a plus for you.
That's a plus for me. It's the background's in flames. That draws the mech as a space idea in such a clean and interesting and just again high camp military sci-fi light to me that is iconic as shit. That fist fight it echoes throughout all of, I think, video game history in a lot of ways. And I think that it just looks incredibly cool. I've always thought railguns just conceptually were just the coolest things ever. So I wish they worked. A big ass fucking railgun. Yeah. My fun fact: one of my friends built as functional as they can be railgun in high school out of some wood and metal railing, and a magnet. And they're not great, but it looks cool as hell in place of an arm on a big digitigrade-legged T-Rex mech that roars and screeches.
Also love that it doesn't have arms. I want to shout that out.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Didn't waste having arms. It's not just a dude.
My favorite Metal Gear is a design called Metal Gear Ray, but I love this man with all my heart nonetheless. And I think he's a 7 for me. To speak of Gray Fox, though, I think that is one of the best looking cyborg ninjas in this series. I love the orange and the gray, which also just adds to that score for me a little bit. I just think he looks really, really badass. I think seeing him for the first time kind of blew my mind as a wee one, even though he holds his sword wrong. So then we will, with this being our first rating of Metal Gear, we will throw to a break, and then we will play a video game. And by video game, meaning not a video game, a game. I don't know why I said video game.
And then we'll just go ahead and play Metal Gear again. All right. I've got to get the ending with Otacon.
Otacon, light of my life. What do you need?
Snake, Psycho Mantis is breaking into OSG Studios.
What? OSG Studios?
He can't be allowed to reach OSG's listenership. He has mind control powers.
There you are, Snake's charmingly pathetic male wife. I shall now take control of you. Otacon, you have to resist.
It's no use, Snake. He's playing his mind control music.
Now, OSG listener, I will speak directly into your mind with my psychic powers. Place your cellular phone on the ground and I will manipulate it. So, you listen to friends at the table.
Oh no, he's using his mind powers to navigate to Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts? I will now use your phone to leave a 5-star review on the OSG landing page.
Oh no, that's disingenuous but beneficial.
I will also use your touch keyboard to write a review. That way your podcast will be exposed to more people, and they will have a chance to correct your verbal foibles on the internet.
No!
Tell your friends and family to listen to OSG and give them 5 stars, or you may hear that music on the breeze.
Snake, are you okay? Snake? Snake!
We are back with a game. Not a video game, a trivia game, in fact.
Kept you waiting, huh? It's just a box. Ugh, just a box.
This game is called Quiz Roseate Spoonbill.
What?
Can I have another read? Can I have another read on that? Or
This game is called Quiz Roseate Spoonbill.
Okay.
I am going to give you 3 code names. You are going to tell me which of these, if any, are real operatives in the Metal Gear Solid universe. I picked really weird ones, so I hope Alice isn't deep in the esoteric weird spin-offs that nobody ever played.
Oh shit, if there's some portable ops on here, I'm fucked.
I'm fucked, period. I thought this might be a game about birds. Let's go.
Hey, in some ways it may just end up being that.
The birds are back.
So this is a 3-option game, so there will be a chance to steal. Yada yada. We've all done these before. If you're new here, go listen to our games. They're like the best part of our whole podcast. First round. Here are the options: Sneaking Rabbit, Marionette Owl, Gambler Shrew. Alice, which one of these is real, if any?
Gambler Shrew, because I want it to be real.
That is incorrect. Nico, Sneaking Rabbit or Marionette Owl?
I'm gonna say Marionette Owl.
That is correct. The Marionette Owl is one of the weird companions in the Game Boy Color game Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel.
This bitch looks so creepy.
All right, Nico.
Yes.
Question 2. The Quake, the End, or the Silence?
I'm gonna say the Silence.
That is incorrect. This one's a little bit of a freebie. Alice, which one of these 2 are real? The End or the Quake?
The End.
That is true. I had to go with Alice on the first one because I just realized how easy that one was.
Yeah, sorry. That one's like...
The End is the sniper from Metal Gear Solid 3.
It is the sniper fight that people talk about.
I didn't pick that one because I thought it might be a reference to Eureka 7.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Alice, question 3. Yellow Grenade Whale, Elephant's Shadow Fist, or Black Art Viper?
I feel like they like to do things with snakes, so I'm going to do Viper.
That is correct. Black Art's Viper is also a character in Metal Gear Solid Ghost Babel, which I say again is for the Game Boy Color.
I have my Game Boy Color. I gotta find this shit on eBay. What the fuck are these names?
Okay, Nico.
Yes.
The Spy, the Commander, or the Soldier?
The Soldier?
That is incorrect.
Okay, but the Spy is a character in Team Fortress 2. You're not going to get me that easy.
Jesus Christ.
Thanks. That's for the geeks and gamers in the crowd.
That's for the real gamers. Gentlemen. Alice, between the Spy and the Commander, which one is real?
The Commander.
Oh, did you know this one?
No, they just love anytime it's like a military title or something, they just slap the on the front, and that's their code name.
The Commander is the antagonist of the cell phone video game Metal Gear Solid Mobile.
The what?
Was it a gacha? Alice may have a new.
I don't think it was a gacha. I think it was like an acid style like puzzle bullshit game.
Oh, I love that shit. Okay.
Okay, I think, Alice, you stole that round, right? So it's back to you?
I did. It's me.
Okay. La Clown, El Capitan, or Le Courage?
I love Disco Elysium.
Gotta go with my Tropico boy, El Capitan.
That is incorrect.
No! El Capitan!
Nico, is it La Clown or Le Courage?
Oh, well, I'm Le Clown, so it has to be Le Courage.
Unfortunately, that is also incorrect.
You're the real clown now, bitch. Put the nose on.
La Clown is a character in Metal Gear Acid, which is, again, an aforementioned weird puzzle game that nobody played.
Le Clown.
Le Clown.
Don't they call them mimes?
Nico? Is it Nico's turn?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. BB, GG, or LL?
See, I know the BBs are a thing in Death Stranding, but I don't know if that means they're not a thing in Metal Gear or if Kojima reused it. Is it GG?
No, unfortunately, no. Alice, is it BB or LL?
We're gonna go with LL because I don't know.
LL Bean.
LL Bean. No, unfortunately, it was BB.
I didn't want it to be that because I don't like that he reuses shit so much in his Kojima verse.
Okay, last round. Alice, the serious child, the Lord of Dust, or the shambling opaque?
Fuck, all of those are good.
So this is a trick question because those are Dark Souls enemies.
I want it to be shambling opaque. I just love that.
Unfortunately, that is incorrect. Thank you for the compliment, though, because I did make that up. Is it the Lord of Dust or the Serious Child, Nico?
Serious Child Nation.
Unfortunately, that is also incorrect.
No!
I wiped y'all out with this one.
You fucking clown.
I got obliterated. I got one lucky shot at the beginning and then it was over.
The Lord of Dust is, I think, the antagonist of a game called Metal Gear Survive, which I don't even fucking know what that is.
That's where they took Metal Gear 5 and they made it into a pay-to-win piece of shit.
Yeah, they made it like a battlefield, right?
Well, that's disgusting. We already had Metal Gear Online. It was so good. Why did we stop that?
Because they fired Kojima and they're like, we gotta milk this for all we got.
Yeah, we have to say right now, the official stance of OSG is that Konami has failed society.
Yeah, fuck Konami. Just
damn.
Fuck Konami.
I don't have any strong opinions, but I'm outnumbered, so fuck Konami.
You will agree with us because what'll happen is we'll play Metal Gear Solid 5 and it will be very clearly an incomplete game that Konami decided to publish after firing Kojima in the middle of it. So.
Oh, okay.
It's a great 2/3 of a game.
Yeah. So Alice wins 3-1 on that one. Two went to nobody. 3 went to nobody.
Look, the names he comes up with are fucking wild, and I'm glad you chose games that I will never play.
So, and that was the beginning of this endeavor that will only get more difficult to wrap your brains around.
The Metal Gear.
Looks like I have to take a knee. I'm getting a Kodak call.
You have to put 2 fingers to
your subdermal implant, which is behind your ear.
Yes.
It vibrates the small bones of your ear.
And you just move your mouth, so you aren't having full-ass conversations while doing a stealth mission.
Oh, I thought Snake had to talk out loud. That's funny.
It's like a subdermal mic, which tank operators use and stuff, where you make the movements and the vibrations go through.
I learn something every day.
I didn't know that either. Science fiction. Dear OSG Pod, I am working as a quadruple agent in a terrorist takeover concerning the world's scariest weapon. I am in charge of torture, open parentheses, head of torture, close parentheses, and I've already accidentally killed a guy. I have a very simple question. How much torture is too much? How many inches long should the O2 bar be? And how morally reprehensible am I if I'm in love with the guy I'm torturing?
Oh, Alice, any initial thoughts?
Thank you so much for writing in. I just want to say, it has been about 1,857 days since Sean Hannity said that he would get tortured live on air to prove that it's not bad, and still hasn't happened. But as we know, torture is an effective way to get information. But something very important you have to consider: how much clothing are you going to keep on your prisoner, right? So I think you need to figure out how much you're going to undress this person. Are you going to let them keep their socks on? Are you going to make them go barefoot, shirt on, shirt off? Where are you going with? And I think that's the basis to any good torture session. Is how much clothes to keep on. What do you think, Nico?
Well, when I think of quadruple agents who need to get information, I mean, I think of Atomic Blonde, the titular Atomic Blonde, played by Charlize Theron in the film Atomic Blonde.
I liked in that movie when they said, oh my god, it's the Atomic Blonde.
Yeah, and then she Atomic Blonded all over all of them.
Is Liquid the Atomic Blonde?
Yes.
He doesn't have the swag. He couldn't pull.
He doesn't have the swag.
Is Atomic Blonde a character in a Metal Gear series?
Yes, it's Ocelot. Ocelot was blonde. We will find this out.
Yep, I forget.
Basically the same character.
Yeah.
Charlize Theron. When is Charlize Theron gonna play out Revolver Ocelot in the Metal Gear movie? I think she could do it. No, I mean, the course of action that we see in that film is, the success is mixed, but I think the important thing is that she balances the use of extreme violence with weird Berlin raves and clubs. So I'm thinking the element that you need to add here to make sure that this is as effective as possible and you don't kill this guy, you're gonna need some craft work. You're gonna need to take your shirt off, his shirt off, everybody's shirts need to be off.
Tarps off, boys.
And you gotta do something about the lighting situation. I think if you do those things and you create that like East Berlin club atmosphere, you're really going to get what you want and you're going to get that press select to submit.
Press select to submit.
All right. Brian, do you have any advice for our dear letter writer or our dear codec call person who's reached out to us in distress?
Our six-tuple agent, he has also signed up for 2 other organizations in the time we have talked about this.
One of them is the Rotary Club.
How much torture is too much? The limit does not exist. 2, how many inches long should the O2 bar be? 6 inches. 3, how morally reprehensible am I if I'm in love with the guy I'm torturing? Not at all, because that's homosexuality. Those are my answers.
And I just want to be clear, if you only have a 4-inch O2 bar, that's respectable. You know, it's not...
It's about how you use it.
It's not the size of the O2 bar, it's how many O's you press.
I was just about to say, it's not the size of the O2 bar, it's how many times you press circle.
Beautiful.
You know, also... You can kiss your torture subject. There's nothing saying you can't.
It's like muscle confusion.
Go mouth to mouth, you know, like get a little tongue in there. Maybe, you know, spin his 6-shooter around, if you know what I mean.
Do some fushigi shit to his dick. End of sentence.
Jesus Christ.
Thanks for listening. Pilots, remember, you can reach out for advice from the team at our email.
Wait, you didn't ask for our final thoughts.
Those were your final thoughts.
We needed to get after that. We needed to get away from that statement so fast.
No. My final thought on this game is Ocelot is the only bitch I respect, and I hope he gets a cool robot hand so he can resume doing gun stunts. Alice, your final thought?
My final thoughts is there's no woman in this game I'm not in love with, and I am including Otacon, and I can't wait to meet the rest. Brian?
Shoutouts to Otacon, the second man in history to experience misogyny.
He's our special little guy, right? Like, we're very obviously who's gotta be.
I'll hear arguments for others, but I just don't see how it's possible.
In other ones, maybe, but in this one, it's gotta be him.
Special little guy has to have small bean energy, and unfortunately, being a quintuple agent involved in eugenics things with the president kind of is large bean behavior.
Oh, he's turned again. He's now a septuple agent. Sorry.
Oh God, calm down. Stop signing up for Zumba classes.
Revolver Ocelot doing the Zumba with one arm.
And just the other one's holding a gun.
Thanks for listening, pilots. Remember, you can reach out for advice from the team at our email, questions@osgpod.com, and non-pilots can send general questions or feedback to the same address. You can also catch up with us on social media for updates and more. Make sure to check back in 2 weeks. We'll be discussing Sin Duality Noir. Until then, goodbye, I love you.
Goodbye, I love you.
Goodbye, I love you.
Alice, that was your Solid Snake is so good.